of the nature of the commitment that you've made as members of the Student Shared Decision Making Councils. And I also have a background as a mental health nurse and worked for many, many years in higher education, leading a pre-registration nursing programme. And one of the things that I often reflect on with Jess is what it is about individuals like yourself who go above and beyond right from the outset of their careers in healthcare practice. So what it is about those individuals that, despite all of the demands of undertaking a healthcare professional programme, that you find that energy and time to go over and above and take on opportunities like this one. And what Jess and I believe really firmly is that what that shows in you is leadership acumen right from the outset of your careers. And by leadership, I don't necessarily mean that you have an ambition to be the future leader of your service or your region, or even working at a national level. But what I mean is that you're somebody that takes responsibility for finding the potential in yourselves, in others, and in the processes that we're part of, but also that you're taking the courage to develop that potential, and you've got that motivation to do that. And you can do that whether you have got those titles that give you permission to do that, or whether you are somebody that's got that motivation and belief in yourself and others. So I know the people that we've got on the screen today have got that impetus, and you are all people that have been attracted to this opportunity because you want to make a positive change. And what I hope is that this programme will enable you to feel confident to step into that space. So to learn a little bit more about yourself and some of the things that perhaps you believe about yourself, or some things that people have told you that perhaps have held you back in the past, that have meant that you've perhaps not said something or taken an opportunity previously that you really wish that you had have done. And really start to break those things down and understand what those elements are around and how you can develop yourself to find the confidence to take those opportunities in the future. And this is not a programme about a particular way of being or certain elements of leadership behaviours or even attributes that we see as the sort of F&F way, or even a more positive approach to leadership. What we want to do is just give you the thinking space to really identify how you can be the very best version of yourself. So we see lots of role models when we're doing our education as healthcare professionals, and there'll be elements of those people that you'll want to emulate in your own leadership practice, and that's really wonderful. But we also want to give you the confidence to say, actually, I have lots of these attributes within me already, and what I need is the support to bring those to the fore and really enable others to see and respect those things as well. So we spend a lot of time on the F&F programmes really paying attention to creating that safe space for you to take some interpersonal risks. So do the things that perhaps you may have held back from previously, try out some different techniques and strategies in how you interact with others, and ask yourself some of those critical questions that will enable you to think differently or almost frame things differently moving forward. The other thing I would really encourage you to do is make a commitment to each other to offer each other some honest feedback. It's actually so rare, isn't it, that we get the opportunity to really develop our self-awareness. There's very few situations where feedback we receive from another person doesn't have a different agenda attached to it. Perhaps it's about your assessor in practice giving you some feedback that means that you'll meet a competency or an assessment, and that has a certain perspective attached to it. But this is actually a genuine, safe space to get that very authentic feedback on how you present yourself and how you use your interpersonal skills to influence and take authority in your roles as student council members, but also in your wider roles as future healthcare professionals as well. So you'll notice that not everybody from your group is here on the call today. And we think that's a real shame, because this is a really unique opportunity that no other students across the rest of the UK have access to. It's just you guys that are doing this programme for the Shared Decision Making Councils. So this is a really, really special opportunity, and we really hope that you'll give yourself permission and time to bring your whole self, to give yourself full permission to dedicate your mind, your heart and your time to this opportunity. And because we're absolutely certain, I can say 100%, that when you do that, that you will notice big changes in you, and you will start to develop a network with each other that is based on trust and support. And when you connect in that way, you become a really powerful entity as a student council. So loads and loads of potential over these next 3 days of the programme, and obviously the wider Shared Decision Making Council. But I also want to just say to you as well that each and every one of you, having taken this step onto this programme and this opportunity as a whole, are setting yourself out there as role models. There are lots of people that are sceptical about the leadership potential of students, because leadership is typically seen as something that comes in the hierarchy with a professional role or responsibility. But what you're saying to each other and to your fellow students and others that will follow you is that absolutely from the moment that you step onto your student journey, you become a leader, you become somebody who can take responsibility for finding the potential in people and processes, and having the courage to develop that potential. That is you from now. So really take this opportunity fully. Also remember that you're now part of an F&F family. So being part of this programme means that you're connected to a much bigger network. And I really want to encourage you to maximise the networking opportunities that can open up for you. Lots of people say on our programmes that it wasn't necessarily about the content of the programmes, although that's fantastic, obviously, but it's more about the people that you meet, and also the people that you then go on to meet when you say, I'm part of that network, I'm part of that alumni network, I've been through an F&F programme, and these are my ambitions as a result of it. You'd be surprised how many people in very influential positions will be really pleased to speak to you. And I also just wanted to offer my support as well, personally, and from the rest of the nursing team at the Florence Nightingale Foundation. There's around 6 of us now, registered nurses in the team, and all of us, every single one of us, are in the roles that we are because we have a passion for supporting and developing others. And whether you're a nurse or from a different healthcare discipline, we want to make sure that you feel that this is an environment that you can reach out to for support in all shapes and forms, but particularly around your career progression. So really, really warm welcome. Enjoy the programme. Do give yourself permission to give this the time and energy that it deserves. And I can wholeheartedly promise you, you won't regret it. It will be absolutely worth it. Thanks for Debbie for inviting me along.
Thank you, Gemma. Have a good rest of the day. Okay. Jess, would you like to say anything before I take over?
Just good morning, everyone. Lovely to see so many of your faces. I am here for the morning session, but I'm going to have my camera off. But Debs will call me in if you need me, and then I will be facilitating your afternoon session. So throw yourselves in and enjoy it. Thanks, Debs.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Jess. Okay. So it's a few more people have joined over that introduction, which is brilliant. So firstly, welcome and thank you for logging on this morning. As I've said earlier, my name's Debbie Preston. I'm the head of nursing midwifery for the Florence Nightingale Foundation Academy, and I'll be running your MBTI session this morning. What we're going to be doing is we'll run till around 1 o'clock, 1:30, give you a lunch break. There will be breaks in between now and then because you're going to need a screen break. So we'll do a kind of midway break, and then we'll give you some lunch, and then you can come back for Jess's session this afternoon, which is all around being an effective chair. So that's the rough agenda for today. those of you, I've just seen something pop up in the chat around questionnaires. So you will all have been sent a questionnaire a few weeks ago. It will have come from the Myers-Briggs company. It may well have gone into your junk mail. It does do that periodically. We can't control that bit of it, unfortunately. But we've resent your questionnaires over the last couple of days. So if you haven't done your questionnaire yet, not to worry. Have the session today, complete your questionnaire and let us know, and then we'll go and send the feedback out to you. For those of you who have completed your questionnaire, we have downloaded those now, and then we will send them out to you this afternoon. So if you are not where you've registered your email account with us, I know most of you have given us a personal email, but if some of you are not at work and you've only given us a work email address, then please let us know, and we'll send it to your personal account so you get that information today. This morning is all about kind of giving you the background to that questionnaire and explaining the personality preferences that you'll get reported on as part of that work. If you've got any questions, please do drop us a message in the chat. I can see the chat is active. I've got two team members with me today. I normally only have one, so very lucky. So I'll introduce them to you today. They're going to be your support team, and Lynn specifically is going to be the coordinator who is looking after your programme. So she's your named coordinator for these next few days with us with F&F. So I'll let Orion introduce himself first, and then we'll move to Lynn.
Hi, I'm Orion. You're very lucky today. I don't normally help out with this team. I'm usually more over in the tech side of things. So if you have bizarre error messages, they'll probably end up being sent to me to try and look into. I'm helping Lynn out as she's still quite new to our team, and it's a delight working with her and everyone else here. Thanks for letting me come and sit in and join you today.
Thanks, Ryan. And I'll pass you over to Lynn. Now, Lynn's very new with the Academy team. She's been with us about 4 or 5 weeks now. So she's in the thick of learning. So I'll let Lynn introduce you.
Good morning. My name's Lynn. If you have any problems, if you haven't received your Myers-Briggs, just give me a quick note in the chat, and maybe I need to send it to another email. Oh, good. Rachel's found hers now, so that's good.
There we go.
But yeah, I'm just new.
That's fine. So this is Lynn's first MBTI welcome session. So she will be hearing the content for the first time, the same as you. Ryan's heard it many times before, which will be good. And she will also be assisting with the breakout rooms this morning. So we're doing a little bit of support today. So please bear with us where that is concerned, because we've all had our first times. Right. Let's do a little introduction of everybody on the screen. So if I can run around the screen, I've noticed everyone's changed their name, which is fantastic. So I'll be able to address you all by the correct name, hopefully. If I can ask you all to just introduce yourself, let us know where you are in the country, and perhaps what made you want to come on the programme. I'll just go in the order of what you are on my screen. So I'm sorry, Iona, you're first. Over
That's
to
okay.
you.
My name's Iona, and I'm a second year physio student at the University of Southampton. I think I was really interested because I'd heard a lot of the stuff that it was Jack Barton, who was already on the student council, was doing. I kept getting intrigued by emails I was getting through with his name on and stuff they were doing. I thought I already had a really keen interest in communicating student voice and doing things like that. So it seemed like something I really wanted to get involved in, especially when I saw the training options and modules that you have. I'm really excited to get started on the programme and meet everybody else as well.
Thank you. Rachel.
Hiya, I'm a second year student midwife, living in Southampton but studying in Reading at University of West London. And I was kind of similar. I received an email and thought, oh, this looks quite interesting. Went away, kept thinking about it, and thought, oh, I think that's something I'd be interested in, to grow in leadership and just be a voice for others, especially like for those that maybe don't feel they have a voice. So yeah, that's why I got involved.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Rachel Connolly, you're next to each other, two Rachels together.
Yeah, sorry, two Rachels. I'm Rachel. I'm from Fleet in Hampshire, but I'm based at Frimley Park as my placement hospital, and I'm a third-year adult nursing student from Surrey University. But I was keen to get involved because I think at Frimley, lots of different students from different universities have their placement at Frimley, and I saw it as kind of an opportunity to sort of work with other students from different universities, allied health professionals, and to kind of support each other a bit better in terms of maximising our opportunities on placement, because they're quite condensed periods of time and learning, and if we can work together better as a team to learn from each other's experience, I think that's a win-win kind of thing. So that's my sort of motivation. But and I'm excited by the opportunities for the training that you offer as well, because I'm someone who doubts myself all the time, and so I will I hopefully maximize my learning and meet all these other lovely students as well.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Eleanor.
Hi, I'm Eleanor. I'm a first year apprentice mental health nurse from University of West London. I wanted to take on something a bit extra, and that's what brought me to the FNF student councils. I'm really I didn't really know what I was applying for, but actually now that I'm into it, the networking opportunities and also just being part of a wider community and using our voice, I think is really special. So that's kind of what drew me to the FNF student councils programme.
Thank you. Karen, is that right? So apologies if I get any pronunciation wrong.
Hi, I'm Karen, or Karen, it doesn't matter about Karen. I'm a second year adult student nurse based out of Brighton University. I was invited in the summer along to the Students' Day as part of We Student Nurses to live tweet it as it went along. And I didn't really know about anything about it at all, but I was just completely amazed that the people that I met there were so positive. And up to that point, the whole of the first year had been all the negative stuff about nursing and, you know, really difficult and all that. And I finally found people that thought about it like I did, like it was the best job in the world. It was incredible and really positive. And I brought that back to the uni, and I was able to help a few students with projects that they had, but they didn't know quite how to do it, and just put them in contact with different people. So really, it just kept me going for the whole of the first year. And then just, yeah, I'm just really grateful I'm part of it and meet like-minded people. So thank you.
That's lovely. Thank you very much. Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly. I'm a second year adult nursing student from City University. I first discovered about the FNF at the student conference that London South Bank, I apologize, was holding during July, where a member of your foundation was talking about how well the mentoring scheme works. And so I investigated, and to be honest, I tried to join everything to be able to get this. So my main reason also is I'm autistic and I'm incredibly shy. So I'm hoping that this will help me with my confidence.
I'm sure it will. Thank you very much. Aurora?
Hi, I'm Aurora. I am a second year mental health nursing student at Solent University in Southampton. I think when I got the email for this, I was on a placement shift, and it was our uni had only let us know the day before applications closed. And I kind of sat down, looked at it. I was like, okay, this is good, because I knew kind of being on placement, there were some discrepancies about kind of even people in my cohort, their experiences, kind of what structures and systems they knew about to get help or to try and find other opportunities. And I just thought, okay, course rep, I've heard all this stuff. If nothing else, this will be good for kind of reconciling what's going on for students and kind of making sure that that's kind of a bit more standard and consistent. And obviously, since I've heard about the training and everything, I've been really excited about that. But I just thought, if nothing else, reconciling the student experience a bit will be good.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Natasha.
Morning. My name's Natasha. I'm a second year paediatric nurse at the University of Winchester, but I live in Southampton, which is a glorious commute, let me tell you, especially with the train strikes at the moment. So I'm very thrilled to be at home today. This is a very, very rare opportunity. I'm coming to nursing quite late in life. I'm retraining. I've come from a very, very different background, very, very different industry. But I'm a very comfortable public speaker. I'm very good at it. It's one of the few things I'm not ashamed to say I'm good at and I enjoy doing. And I think I just don't necessarily have the right things to say because I'm not familiar with the issues that we are facing. So when I come across, sorry to single you out, Kelly, but people like Kelly who have probably all the right things to say, just maybe not the confidence to say it. I really kind of relish those opportunities to be able to speak up on behalf of those people and maybe even impart some wisdom so that they can say them themselves and then learn from the people who have all these great things to say and that kind of then allow me to do my job better. So that's kind of my main motivation.
Thank you very much. Ben.
Sorry, I'm sat in a nook in QA Hospital on placement. So, I'm Ben. I'm a first year mental health nursing student at University of Portsmouth. I'm currently on placement with the mental health liaison team at Queen Alexandra. I think I made a bit of a commitment to myself as a mature student returning to studies to make the most out of the experience by taking any available opportunities. Similar to somebody else, I got an email from my university, I think a day before applications closed, and just in a half-hour space, smashed out the application and sent it off with, a bit of openness about whether or not I heard anything back, and I was really grateful to get something back. I think for me, like I really like the idea of the power of communities in a multitude of different settings and the effect that can have. I think it's, I don't want to load the word too much, but I think it's a bit horrendous that the attrition rates for nursing courses pre-qual and registration are so high given the immense demand for nurses in the country. So I'm really happy to be a part of anything that can make any difference there. And
Brilliant.
That's
Thank
me.
you very much. Lydia.
Hello, my name's Lydia. I'm a second year student cardiac physiologist. I study at the University of Southampton. The reason why I joined this program is because so cardiac physiology is quite a small niche course. I think there's like 5 unis in the UK that do it, and at ours there's about 15 people in our year, so it's quite underrepresented. And but despite that though, like we have like a lot of passionate people, and I feel like it's really good to like represent them. And yeah, I'm just really excited for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Carolina.
Hello, so I'm third year student of adult nursing at New Buckinghamshire University. My main placement is in Frimley. I got an email from actually clinical educators, and since then it was very interesting because it seems that my university was not very active in promoting Florence Nightingale. I'm not even sure if they were very aware of it, to be honest. I'm also Nursing Society treasurer and since year 2, and I was looking in a way to be heard, looking to learn how to be heard better and to make changes for students and also in the future. And I feel like I am okay in speaking up and I do know what I want to say, but sometimes it's how to say it in the correct way to be heard. It's a thing that I would really like to learn.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Matthew.
Hi everyone, I'm a second year adult nursing student at the University of Chichester. I was part of their very first cohort last year because it's a brand new nursing school. And I'm also the student rep this year as well. So like some of the others, I'm retraining a bit later in life. I've got a background in personal training in a gym for the last 10 years, so it's a bit different. I think what attracted me to this course was in particular the opportunity to do reverse mentoring and then to build that kind of network within this new sort of career, and also then develop myself through the other skills that I'll kind of learn through this course as well.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Cecile?
Hiya, I'm Cecile. I'm a third year student midwife in Kent at Canterbury Christ Church. Like quite a few of the others, I'm a mature student, so, and I've done like the explosive approach like Ben, so I just participate to anything and everything that I can. Also part of the society and the student rep, and I've never really been scared of opening up and bringing issues to the attention of others, but I just felt like being part of the ICS was like one step higher, so that was quite something that I was looking forward to, just to kind of be heard a bit better. Sometimes when you just speak at your own level, I think you lose a bit of distance, like your voice just stops at that level effectively. So I just wanted to go a bit higher, and then yeah, it's really nice actually. I find it always really motivating to hear everybody in the groups, because I feel we're kind of bond by the same motivations, and that's really nice because sometimes in the cohort it's not the same. So I feel like I'm in a like-minded people place. So that was nice. We also only had the email the day before the application closed, so it's definitely some work to do there and engage with future students to basically join in. That's me.
Thank you very much. Nicoletta?
Hi, sorry for my camera.
Oh, you're okay.
So my name is Nicoletta. I'm a third year apprentice nurse in Winchester. I find about the program when I did the research about my dissertation, because the topic, it was management, leadership, coaching, supervision. And when the email come from the learning team, I said, oh, I will try. And being an apprentice, it's slightly different to be a student nurse because we touch both bases. And I think it's good to have a voice like an apprentice in this program. And I want to learn more about reverse mentoring because I touch the base on my researches. Thank you to give me these opportunities.
No problem at all, and thank you very much for joining us. Emmanuel. Emmanuel, can you hear us? I'll just check the chat, just in case we've got technical issues. Mina's popped her information into the chat, which is fantastic. So she said, hello, my name is Mina. I'm second year paramedic student from the University of Portsmouth, originally from London. Member of Health Education England, recommended the programme. She's currently on placement. So she's in and out. She'll be in and out today, and she wants to say thank you for the opportunity to network. I'll let you all have a more in-depth read of that. Okay.
Hello, I've just got my lunch break. Coincidentally, I've just got my lunch break, so I thought, let me just show a face to a name. Thank you so much for understanding my situation at the moment, and I'm glad to be on this program. So thank you.
That's all. Thank you. Great to see you. Josephine, can you hear us?
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Josephine. I'm a third-year student nurse from the University of West London, that is adult nursing. And my placement is with Frimley Trust. So that's where I do my placement. I just got an email from the practice lead for the invitation. Then I decided, let me apply and see what is all this about. Throughout the university, I've not been in any representative group, so I didn't represent any group. So my aim was to give a voice, to be an advocate for others and networking with other peers, and also to develop my leaderships. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much.
You're
That's
welcome.
brilliant. It's great to meet you all. So Emmanuel, if you can hear us, you're very welcome, and we'll keep, obviously, if you're able to reconnect with us, then we'll check in with you in a little while. So the session today, MBTI, looking at preferences and your personality quizzes that you've gone through. What I need to do to start the session off, again, just as a bit of a warm-up, really, this session's really interactive. So you're going to be talking and interacting with each other throughout the session. There will be a little bit of me talking, a little bit of slideshow, and then we'll do a bit of activity. So this is not going to be a 5 hours of straight PowerPoint with me lecturing you, which is really good. It's interactive, and I want you to be involved and to learn about your personality preferences and those preference pairs that we're going to run through today. What's going to happen is I'll get you to do these activities, and I'll ask you to have a think about where you sit within the practice pairs and preferences that we're going to talk about. After lunch, we'll break. We'll have a break, and then we'll give you your feedback. And then from that feedback, we'll then see if your preferences that you've tried to work out over the course of the content this morning match what's come back with your questionnaire. Okay, and then we'll talk a little bit about next steps. Okay, yes, I've got hands in the air from Rachel.
Just a quick question. If I'm able to get the questionnaire finished in the break, will...
Yeah, that's fine.
Amazing, thank you.
Ben?
Hi, Debbie. Yeah, I just want to double check what is the end time for today's session 2 o'clock, or is it going later than that?
My session finishes at 2. Jess, well, it'll finish before 2. Jess has an introduction to chairs after that.
Ah, okay. Cool. I might have missed some communication around that thing, so I only realised that I only thought that there was their session until 2 today. Cool.
Okay. We'll clear, what I'll do is I'll make sure I clear up all the timings, locations, Zoom links and everything for you at the end of this session. So you're clear for your next 2 days. Aurora?
I've done MBTIs before, and I got sent my results already this morning. Is that fine? I won't say anything. I'll still participate.
Yeah. We haven't downloaded them yet, so that's interesting, but thank you. I'll make sure, don't worry for now. If you have done MBTI in the past, that's a really good point. They do change periodically, and I'll talk about that throughout at different points in your career, at different points in your life. They will change and evolve, and we will speak about that. Also, the other thing to note before we get started is this is not about putting you in a box. This is very much about you exploring your preferences and who you are. And if you don't agree with what's in your questionnaire, that's absolutely fine. Because what we'll do is we'll arrange a follow-up with you, and we'll go through, and I can do some additional work with you as an MBTI practitioner to explore those preference pairs in a little more depth, and then give you more information, and we can get your report sheet changed to what your best fit type is. But obviously I can't do that with 20 of you on a screen all together. So just bear with us. Obviously, when you do get your feedback back, if you're not 100% sure, 100% happy, drop me a message in the chat, and what we'll do is we'll kind of follow up with you individually, either through the session or externally. Okay. So first thing I want to do with you today is you've joined a Florence Nightingale Foundation course, so we cannot possibly do a session with you without mentioning and introducing Florence Nightingale. So I've got a little quiz for you just to get you warmed up and ready to go. So I'll just share my screen, and I'll ask my able assistants Lynn, just to keep an eye. I won't be able to see you, so I'll keep an eye on your. Can you keep an eye on the screen, Lynn? Just let me know if anybody pops their hands up. That would be brilliant. Shout out, pop your hands up, put something in the chat. If you don't want to speak out loud, that's absolutely fine. And I've just got a few questions, so we'll see. This all relates to the Florence Nightingale video that's available on your LMS portal, which I'll talk about in a little while. So you don't need to give us a wave and tell us about yourself, but what is her date of birth? What's Florence's date of birth? Feel free to shout out if you know.
We have 1820 in the chat.
1820. Yes, that's the year. Do we know the date?
12th of May from Natasha. And
very good. Yes, 12th of May, 1820. Well done. Where was she born?
Florence, Italy.
Absolutely, yes. Well done. You guys are on it this morning. I'm shame I don't have any. I can't do prizes for virtual. It's no fun. It's not fair. Yeah, absolutely. Florence was born in Florence. Additional fun fact relating to Florence and her family is Florence had a sister, and she was born in Naples and called Naples. So Florence and Naples. What was the institution that she founded? Any ideas?
I think we're stumped on this one.
Okay, that's fine. Let me move my screen along. Oh, gone back too far. Okay, so Florence Nightingale founded the first school of nursing in the UK. See, she, as part of her own development, she did a lot of work in the Crimea, as we all know, and she did a lot of work with supporting and mentoring staff out there. She came back to the UK and she built the first school of nursing as part of St Thomas's Hospital, and you can see there the old hospital pictures and a classroom full of student nurses. The interesting thing about Florence and her school of nursing on the South Bank was that she came from a low economic background herself, and she wanted to offer that opportunity to others within the low economic background. So she went out and recruited people who wouldn't normally had the opportunity that she's had, to join her nursing school and to train to be a nurse and to take on that vocation. So she was very, very kind of aware of the environmental and the kind of financial situation around her, and she pulled in those women at the time who wouldn't have had the opportunity to take on a career like hers, and encouraged them to join her nursing school and take that forward, which is really great. And to let those less fortunate than herself shine through, even though they weren't able to kind of finance that themselves, which is brilliant. What did she invent as part of her work within the Crimea? I'll show you, I'll give you, anybody seen this? So this is the first real example of our, from the nursing profession's perspective, of our evidence-based practice. This is a Cox-Combe diagram, and it's a chart, and it details post-surgical wound infection rates from the soldiers that she worked with out in the Crimea and helped to care for. And what Florence found while she was out there was that more of the soldiers were dying of post-surgical wound infections than they were of their injuries themselves. And from this, she catalogued this information within the Coxcomb diagram, and you can see that it runs over the space of nearly a financial year, and you can see the information in there, and the numbers varies. And what she did was she took this back and she used this information to kind of lobby to get more support and more education out in terms of the infection prevention work that she did, and improving practice. So it's that first kind of opening of evidence-based practice and use of data to support the nursing care agenda and priorities within healthcare. And she's done all this, she did all this while she was out within the Crimea, which is absolutely fantastic, because I think the amount of work she probably had on, to have the time to go away and build this from scratch, and then the lobbying that took with it, it's really quite inspiring that she was able to do that. And from there, infection prevention took off, and we know how far that's come now, whatever the profession we're in. Anybody know where her childhood home was? Nope. Okay, well, as I said, she wasn't from a low economic background.
Derbyshire and Hampshire from Rachel.
Well done, well done. Derbyshire and Hampshire. So Lea Hurst is her childhood home in Derbyshire. You can go and stay there, actually. You can definitely visit, and I believe you can stay if you do so wish. And also there's a home in Hampshire as well, so she split her time between the two. So from quite fortunate background, which is why it's so fantastic that, you know, she gave back during her time as a nurse and with her nursing school ambitions. Okay. Oh, the screen's froze. Can you tell me what's on the screen? Some of you will know from your introductions already. Did anyone attend Nurses Day last year?
We've got Westminster Abbey, the celebration service.
Absolutely. So this is some pictures from Westminster Abbey and the annual Florence Nightingale commemoration service that we hold every year on the 12th of May. Obviously not this year, because there are other important coronation activities occurring, so it will be slightly delayed. But this is where the great and the good of the nursing midwifery professions come together to celebrate on Florence's birthday. Some of you will have had the privilege of being able to come to this session and be part of Jess's iconic student day that happens around the same time, and may have come to the service and seen the procession. So you can see at the top we've got the lamp, which is processed up the aisle of Westminster Abbey by our scholars, who are the creme de la creme of our nursing midwifery profession. Our Florence Nightingale has been supporting scholarship development since 1939, and the scholar programme that we have within the foundation has grown from strength to strength, and we now have 84 scholars that we support in senior nursing positions. So it's usually band 7 and above nationally, and this year we're going global as well, to offer global scholarships out to senior nurses, the most senior nurses within their organisations, and some from a kind of country perspective as well, with our global programme. So our scholars, some of our scholars are selected to process the lamp up the aisle, and they're followed by a group of students, which represents the kind of handing over the knowledge from one generation of nursing and midwifery to another. It's a fantastic day. If you haven't been, you will get invited as part of this programme for 2023, which is very exciting as well. Please come if you can. It's a real opportunity for you, I think, whatever your profession, whether you're a nurse midwife or AHP, to kind of celebrate the work that's happened collectively within the health service, whether you're working in acute sector, mental health, or social care. It makes you very proud to be there and to kind of reflect on the work that you've done. over the last year or few years or career, depending on where you are in that journey. So I highly recommend it. There's also, it's very well worth a look around the Abbey because there's some beautiful kind of tributes to Florence Nightingale within the Abbey. You can see the window on the picture there as well. So just a little insight of things to come as part of this group and part of this project within the Academy. Okay, finally, I'm allowed to talk about me for a little bit. I've listened to you guys introduce yourselves and a little bit about why you're here and what you want to do. Before I start the formal session this morning, I'll give you a little bit of background about myself as well, so that you can understand some of my journey and how I've got to be doing this as my job, which is absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend it for future career options. It's brilliant working for Florence. As I said, I'm a head of nursing midwifery now, focused on leadership and scholarship development. My background is I'm a critical care nurse. I qualified in 2006, and laughable now, there was no jobs. We were all pulled into, my training was done at University of Hertfordshire, and we were all pulled into a lecture theatre about 3 months before the programme was due to finish to basically say, there's very few jobs. Well, clearinghouse is happening, but it was new at the time. So they opened their clearinghouse. But as I wasn't a home student, so I come from Somerset originally and had travelled to Hertfordshire because I wanted to go away to university. I wouldn't be included as part of that clearinghouse. So I dutifully kind of finished my course and trotted home and went to apply for my local trust, which was considerably smaller. Unsurprisingly, being that there was no jobs in Hertfordshire and North London, there was no jobs in Somerset either. So I then had to go old school before I'd even started, and found a job in Leicester as a critical care nurse in the back of the Nursing Standard magazine at the time, because that was where we used to find the excess jobs. Wasn't a preceptorship job. Preceptorship was very new at that point, so any kind of transition education, we were told to ask for preceptorship. I don't think in hindsight and reflection I truly understood what that was, but I knew I had to ask for it. So at all my interviews I was like, do you do a preceptorship programme? And a lot of the interviews I went to, they said to me, this isn't a job for a newly qualified, why aren't you in clearinghouse? Having said that, I was very lucky, and all the jobs I applied for actually I was offered, so I had a choice at the end of the day, which I feel very lucky and was incredibly surprised to have. I ended up going to Leicester to Glenfield Hospital Critical Care Department, which specialised in cardiothoracic. I've always been very biased towards the heart and lungs in my training. I think there's an area or a specialism that we're all kind of slightly drawn towards. For me, cardiorespiratory was where I felt most comfortable and interested and inspired. So to work at Glenfield was fantastic because it was cardiac surgery. It was an opportunity that I got because my friend who I was training with was going to live with her boyfriend up there. So I was like, well, at least I've got one person I know, and the rest of it, I'll just take the opportunity and throw myself into it. We'll do a year, see what happens, get some experience, and then, you know, maybe go back home, maybe go somewhere else. We'll see what happens. That was 17 years ago. So I joined as a Band 5 nurse critical care. They had a fantastic preceptorship programme, which was fantastic. I learned so much. I got loads of education and support. We had a fantastic PDN that took us through. And I was a new starter for 2 years. Again, never happens these days. There wasn't, and they had a bit of a job freeze afterwards. So I was kind of the newbie for a really long time, which was great because I got to work with everybody, and there was some really experienced practitioners, doctors, nurses that I got to spend time with, and they had time to teach me because we weren't on a continuous cycle of recruitment. I got ambitious quite quickly, I think it's fair to say. Glenfield Hospital, for those of you who aren't aware, at the time they were the National ECMO Centre for the UK, so they had a lot of advanced respiratory care patients coming through. We didn't have an anaesthetist-led unit, so we were cardiac surgery run. So we had 2 anaesthetists, but it very much was the responsibility of the nurse to manage the ventilation and all the other elements of care that we were giving. And it was a lot of phone calls to the anaesthetist who was in theatre, and then the cardiac surgeon would come out and give their orders as per surgical rounds, still are to this day. So I was empowered quite early to make decisions and to critically analyse what I was doing and understand the kind of the mechanics of what was going on behind. As the unit grew, we merged into a intensivist-led unit, and more respiratory came on side as well as the ECMO. I trained and continued through, did my professional critical care qualifications. I was one of the first degree nurses from that area to go through. So when I asked to do my critical care modules, I was kind of enforced onto a master's programme, which again, at the time, I was quite disgruntled by. Again, now I look back on reflection, I'm like, I was so lucky. So I was put through my critical care programme at master's level. And at the same time, I was offered doing some volunteering with St John Ambulance, so I could get into the rugby for free. Really good opportunity if you do like to get into other activities, and not have to pay the fee to get in, because being junior nurse is not the most wealthy profession. So I was working volunteer work with them, and they offered me the opportunity to do a teaching qualification at the same time, do some basic life support training with them. So I thought, let's do that as well, because the next thing on the list will be mentorship, so I'll do that. So I did a master's and a PGCE at the same time, which I was single and was just going out and having a nice time. So crazy behaviour, wouldn't recommend it. I haven't done that again since, but it did mean that I got all of my training over and done with, my kind of post-reg training over and done with in one go. From there, I had the opportunity to train as an ECMO specialist. I did paediatric rotations, and probably the highlight of my career clinically was that I got to join the ECMO transport retrieval team. So I went out across the country picking up ARDS patients and bringing them back for ECMO, which was absolutely fantastic. I got to work really closely with EMAS, working with adults and kids, went to go to loads of different hospitals across the country. And I suppose from a leadership development point of view, I think walking into somebody else's intensive care unit or clinical area anywhere as a Band 5 practitioner and having very senior nurses from other organisations saying, you know, what do you want us to do, was incredibly scary, but it did give me that voice and the confidence to say, actually, you know, let's take a step into this kind of leadership arena. And my clinical leadership probably started to take off at that point. Fun fact, I also got to fly with Prince William in his RAF helicopter, which was a bit of a giggle. I didn't know at the time, obviously. I tried to play it cool in the back with Winchman while I was looking after the patient. But so I've had some really fantastic clinical opportunities as part of, you know, applying for a random job in the back of a magazine. In 2013, I'd kind of been with the unit for a very long time. I had the opportunity to move into an education post as the critical care PDN. I thought probably about time. I wanted to do a bit of education. I love education. And I was seeing more and more new starters coming and the organisation growing, so I wanted to support that. So I went in and became a PDN. 2015, I got married and wanted to have kids. So at the time, my PDN post was 30 hours education, and I kept 7.5 hours and dropped down to a Band 6 so that I could continue to be clinical. Being clinical is something that I've always felt has been quite important to me, my development in my career, particularly within an education role. I want to be aware of what's happening and I want to feel it, and I like the patient aspect of that. So it was quite important that I kept both of those on. At the point of getting married and having kids, I decided that maybe one job was better and that I'd focus on just one. So at that point, I dropped my Band 6, 7.5 hours a week, and went off and did PDN full time. When I came back from having my children, I was given the opportunity to support teams across the entire trust, and especially developing clinical leadership. So I was offered the RCN clinical leadership facilitation for the trust, which was really exciting. And from there, I took a small cohort of Band 7s and supported them through the accredited programme with a couple of assistant chief nurses in my team, which was brilliant. I thought they would be running it. Turned up on the day I was running it. Very interesting conversation. They weren't easy, I won't lie. It was a baptism of fire. I learnt a lot. But we ended up having a very successful start to the programme. This rolled into 2020 and then COVID hit. So my alliance and my loyalty was tied a little bit because I was needed to go and deliver critical care induction training and critical care uplift and practice clinically. But I also felt very strongly that as a leadership team, we needed to continue to support our clinical leaders. And I think even though clinical practice is extremely strained, I think we still need to support and develop our people. And it doesn't look good if, as a leadership facilitator, if I say, sorry, going to get tough, you guys just deal with it by yourself. I'm going to go back and work clinically full time. So at that point, I challenged a little bit and we paused the programme for 2 months. I did 2 months of full-time critical care and critical care uplift for recruitment from the temporary register, and then remodeled the programme entirely over that time so that we could continue to meet face-to-face once a month with our ward managers to provide them with the safe space, the networking and the support they needed to deliver the service changes that they needed to deliver and to support themselves in completing the programme, because we'd made a commitment to start the programme, so we were going to finish it. That happened, and the first cohort graduated in May of 2021, so slightly delayed, but still there. As we went through 2021, I was then asked to develop a faculty of leadership education ranging from Band 5 all the way up to Band 8A. So we delivered and developed senior staff nurse programmes, Band 6 specialist nurse, continued clinical leadership, CLP, badged by the RCN, and I brought Leo to the organisation as well. So we all got faculty trained as Leo facilitators and ran a bank of education to support clinical leadership with groups of staff actually, which ranged from Band 5 to Band 8C in the end, all sat in a room together talking about the leadership challenges in the trust, which I found quite satisfying because it really, I think, for having a staff nurse sat next to a very senior leader in the organisation, sharing their challenges between them, which are very different, and hearing each other provided an element of that reverse mentoring that is so important. So that was what I was doing up until kind of autumn of 21. I then decided I wanted a bit of education for me, so I looked into a Florence Nightingale scholarship, which was quite exciting. Didn't really know much about it, did a bit of digging, and then a job offer came up in the form of this role. I thought, having just typed out my beautiful application for scholarship, I thought I've got to stand by my words here a little bit and take the opportunity. So I applied with very little expectation, and 2 interviews later and 3 weeks later, I was making the decision as to whether I was going to leave the NHS and move into F&F territory. Really hard decision, particularly because of the clinical challenges at the time. And in February, I moved over and started this role. And since then, it's not really looked back. I still work clinically, I've remained on the bank, and I still work within a COVID medicines delivery unit. I have got a shift coming up in ITU, but I thought I wanted to take a bit of time away to kind of concentrate on this really. And it's been absolutely fantastic. The networking opportunities that you'll get with working within the academy and as being part of the academy are phenomenal. Working with members of the team like Jess and Gemma, they are absolutely fantastic. You've got such an advocate running your programme with you and supporting you with your shared decision-making ambitions. So it's been a really good opportunity, and it's great to hear that you guys are all kind of throwing yourselves into these options, because never say no, always say yes and try it, because you never know what will come at the end of it. So in summary, I'm very much what you see is what you get. I'm one of those authentic leaders. I am very NHS and clinical. I've not got the strongest academic background, but that's kind of me in a bit of a nutshell. So on that note, I'm gonna let you take 5 minutes and get a cup of tea. So if you can come back at 10 past, and while you're having a cup of tea, I'd like you to think about what are your hopes and goals for the programme, and also what would you like on your learning agreement. Gemma spoke earlier about the safe space and the opportunity to share and be a critical friend to each other. So what we want to do is we want to kind of create that contract with you. So you can we'll populate some slides with that information on. Then what I'll do is I'll share that with RADA, who you're going to next, and they will make sure that they sign up to that contract with you, and they'll also incorporate your hopes and goals for the programme within their content. So that when you arrive for your session with RADA, that some of the hopes and goals that you want to get out of that will be kind of included as part of that content. Does that make sense? I've just seen Jess flash up on my screen.
Here I am. Sorry, Deb. I was listening then, and thank you. I love listening to your story, so thank you for sharing that, and it's awesome to work with you too. There's been some about this afternoon session in the chat. So the chair session is an interactive one, and I need a big group for it. So either before you get back at 10 past from your break, just from this point onwards, can you in the chat say I can stay or I can't stay? If I hit the number, I'll do it. If I don't hit the number, I'm going to have to tag it on to another date that you've already got booked in, because I hear what people are saying, that adding an additional date is not going to work because you're all so busy. So we'll see what kind of jiggery pokery we can do. That's all I wanted to say. So please pop in the chat, yes, I can stay, no, I can't, and then I'll make the call. Thanks, Debs.
Thank you. Rachel, you've got your hands up. Oh
yes, it was just a question about the hopes and goals.
Yep.
Is that a personal thing in terms of leadership and where we want to get to, or is that to do with our ICS that we're working with and our goals and what we want to achieve?
Either or both. I'm very flexible. This programme is, I want you to use it as a little bit of selfish time.
Okay.
So be selfish, think about yourselves, put yourself first, forget all of the other responsibilities and stuff you've got going on, and really, prioritise yourself, whatever you like. There's no rules with this.
And it's a goal for this year, what we want to achieve.
Any goal for the programme, goal for the year. You will have fairly similar. What we'll do is we'll collate them into a slide, we'll pop them into a list. All of that will be shared with you at the end of this session, and we'll share it with RADA, and then what they'll do is they'll make sure that they kind of nod to those in their session with you. From what you've already told me, a lot of it will be, a lot of the things that you've highlighted will be included as part of the RADA session anyway, but they do like to bespoke all of their kind of content to what the group wants.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I will see you back at 10 past. Grab a cup of tea, stretch your legs, have a bit of a screen break. Ryan, are you there? Or
yes,
Lynn? I am. What would you like to do with regards to the record?
I can pause it.
Can we pause? Okay, and we're back online. So what I'm going to do to start with is I'm going to just share I won't share my screen. I will pop my screen onto on my other desktop, and what we'll do is I'll just ask you to share your hopes and goals, and I'll type them in, and then we'll do the same for group agreement, and then I'll share my screen as we go into the MBTI content. Kelly, you okay?
What system did you say that this would be recorded on?
Oh, it's so what we'll do is we've recorded the session, and we've been given access to the learning management system.
No.
No?
No, I haven't.
Okay, that's fine. What we'll do is I'm going to run through that at the end of my
Kelly,
session
I think
today.
you were put onto a slightly different list from like I didn't have the updated list when I had it, so there were one or two people who I think were missed off. Kelly, I'm really sorry. I think you may have been one of them. Thank you for letting me know. If anyone else doesn't have access, let me know. If you just email the academy and just I'll sort it out. So after the session, I will make sure you've got it. So we'll get that all sorted out for you.
At the end of these sessions, what we do is we will run through all of the housekeeping. We'll run through all of the information to make sure that we've got everybody's right details, emails and access about open for you. So any queries like that, we've got some time at the end of the session to kind of run through all that. Don't worry.
As being on the leadership program, do we get access to the academy portal?
That the learning management system is the portal. Yes.
Oh, okay, then I don't have access to anything.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. We'll work it. We'll sort it out later. No
check
problem.
everyone and just make sure everyone's there. So if you still don't have access after that, then do let me know. But I will troubleshoot it this afternoon and make sure everyone can get onto it.
No problem. We'll go through all of this at the end of the session, as I said. So don't worry. Right. Can I have your hopes and goals? Feel free to shout out anything. What would you like to achieve as part of this experience?
I think oh, Aurora, did you want to go?
No, go for it.
I think personally for me, it would be just like establishing a clear leadership style, and within that I know that personally I'm a bit of a people pleaser, so I will say yes to things when maybe I should say no, or and taking the time to harness my voice and kind of establish those clear boundaries and feel confident saying what I mean. I think that's really vital for becoming a nurse. So that's
Absolutely.
kind of where I'm at.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Right, I've popped that one on. Ben, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I think from a purely selfish perspective, for me, I'm going to be 40 I'll be about 40 by the time I graduate. I've held management and senior leadership roles in areas outside of nursing. I really enjoy that aspect. I quite enjoy being at that level, and I quite like to return to it within nursing. So the selfish aspect for me is I'm also here to kind of build some connections and hopefully look to support the advancement of my career.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Thank you. Aurora?
Yeah, I think for me, part of it is just networking and kind of wanting to get to know who I need to know for what kind of thing. But yesterday our lecturer had us do an exercise where we had to write things we liked about each other on our backs. And one of the things someone wrote on mine was that I'm a good leader. And I was like, well, I've never really identified with that, but it's not the first time I've heard it. And I think kind of learning how I can step into that and do something meaningful with it is kind of the big thing for me.
Okay. Iona? Or we're cooking on gas now.
I think for me, again, I don't really see myself as the leader, but I'm like a really passionate advocate for other people, and I always kind of saw leadership as basically empowering others to see their own leadership qualities and skills that they have. And I guess I want to get better at doing that, because something happened yesterday. It kind of shocked me. Someone said to me, "Oh, you're always so grasping, like you always go for every opportunity, you don't share it." That really shocked me, because actually I am always sharing it and trying to encourage other people. I thought I obviously need to adapt how I communicate, because that's not coming across. So I guess that's something I'd really like to improve, is my communication, because I think I have a lot to say, a lot to do, and I don't always get it across in the best way. So I'm excited for things like the RADA module as well, to kind of just improve those techniques and come across, make sure my intentions are coming across properly.
That's okay, that's fine. Hopefully some of today will help with that as well. as a bit of a hint as to what's coming. Matthew.
Cool. So I've got down having a reverse mentor as part of this process, and also kind of building a network for my career. I kind of have an idea that I want to go into more community nursing rather than acute. So maybe finding like through the mentoring route what kind of area of community nursing might appeal to me through that kind of sort of thing, and also kind of like building a bit more confidence, particularly like in groups of people. I do get a little bit of the old imposter syndrome creeping in, so I might not be the first to put my hand up and answer a question and that sort of thing. So maybe through this process that will kind of limit down a little bit by the end.
Absolutely. Rada will definitely help you with the imposter syndrome, having recently had some myself. And also we'll be doing a little bit about that in a minute. So again, watch this space, more to come. Kelly.
Hi, my goals were the fact I'm 41 years old and I wanted more, what I'd like is more representation for mature students and possibly learning how to get the programs more structured for mature students, because for example my university and Barts Trust, they don't seem to take into account that people have families, jobs and responsibilities, which is causing problems at the moment for a lot of my students. I'd also like, because I'm program rep as well, I'd like more adaptations for people with disabilities and for there not to be a shame and stigma to say, can I please have help? And also there needs to be more of an environment for students to be able to say that they're not okay on placement. I struggled a lot on placement and I held it in a lot. But then I spoke to other students who all have the same experience, but it seems to be an environment where it's not okay to say, all right, I'm not okay. And I've recently had a friend who had a nervous breakdown on placement, and I always saw her as the strongest person. But this is an environment that is fairly new to many of us. So what I'd have liked there to be more of a structure or a place where students could go to talk and to just get their feelings off without being judged.
Okay.
Is that okay?
That's absolutely okay. There is nothing wrong with what you've just said. I'll try and capture that. I've written some bullet points, so I'll try and capture that in a meaningful way for you when I share it back. Rachel.
Yeah, so my personal hopes and goals are some that have been covered by other students, which are confidence and imposter syndrome. So I really lack confidence in myself. I doubt myself. I'm also a student rep, and so I often have to share feedback which isn't my own feedback, but it's uncomfortable feedback necessarily to be sharing, and it's very hard, I find, to share that feedback without then feeling terrible, giving sort of negative feedback. I feel like I'm saying it and it's all coming from me, and then I feel guilty afterwards. And did I say that right? I kind of second guess myself afterwards. Yep. I see this as a really good opportunity, as touched on by others, for networking. I also am thinking that I will not go down the acute route when I qualify, so I'm looking at sort of community nursing, GP nursing, and I'm quite interested in research as well. So it's a really good opportunity to sort of network, find out a bit more about. It was really interesting to hear, about different people's career paths. Hearing about your career path today, it really sort of stimulates your mind to think, oh, different. Yeah, it broadens how you think of nursing. I think I'm a mature student, much older than everyone else who said on here. So by the time I qualify, I'll nearly be 50. So my time is sort of, I feel more limited, therefore I want to make the most of the time. The mentoring is a fantastic opportunity. And the other thing is touching on placement. I think there's a lot of work to be done around placements in terms of making them more positive experiences from the student's perspective. I think placement is really hard for students in terms of being honest with the feedback you give, because the person you're giving the feedback to is grading you, and therefore it's a really challenging environment, and that counts towards your degree. And placements are quite short, and there's a lot of pressure on students in a very short period of time to, it's like starting a new job every time, and you're graded on that. And I don't think there's any other career where that happens in such a high pressure environment, and you're graded on it. If you start a new job, you'd maybe have a review after maybe, I don't know, 3 months, 6 months. You're on a placement, you were there for 5 weeks, and no, nothing else is like that. And then there are people, the patients' lives in the middle of it. And I think it's quite a, like Kelly was saying, it's really tough for a lot of students. And I don't think maybe trusts recognise that as much as they perhaps could. I know it's a horrendous time in the NHS as well. I fully recognise that. But any opportunity to have a student voice, I think, is a fantastic hope for this programme. I'll be quite
Thank you very much. Natasha?
Hi, yeah. I feel like I haven't got much original to say now because everybody's kind of said all the great bits. I'm going to piggyback off something that Ben said, though, because I come from a really strong management background in my old life, my previous life. So I do recognise that I have managerial skills and leadership qualities. I just don't, I need some help translating them, I think is probably the best way to distill it. I don't want to rest on my laurels and just assume that because I've been a good manager once in a very different environment, that I'll necessarily be a good leader in this environment. I think I can be, and I hope I will be. I think I need some help bridging the gap. Yeah. Networking as well, for sure. I can't quite believe how many people already I've met that are useful in some capacity, and that's not to say that that's the only reason to meet people, but I think we are being offered quite a unique opportunity to meet very specific types of people, some of whom are literally on this chat. I was very, very lucky to meet people in our induction. And yeah, so I think, again, I kind of need some help figuring that out and kind of utilising social media more appropriately as well. I think that's a big one for me, because social media, I mean, it came quite late to us. I was already a grown-up by the time it really was a part of my life. And my grandma follows me on Instagram, so that's about the extent of my following. I need to kind of figure out how to reach a wider network. I've just taken over the Southeast position for the RCN Student Council as well, and I'm a student rep at Winchester, and all those good things that everyone else is doing. So collectively I should be having a much wider reach than I am, so I think I just need some help figuring that out as well.
Well, I'm sure we can help you with that as well. I'm still learning the social media thing, not very good on Instagram myself. Nicoletta?
Hi, how Natasha said before, it's not too much to say, but I really want to find my leadership style, because, and I'm interested in the reverse mentoring.
Yep.
And I'm grateful to give me this opportunity to be part of this network. And what can be different is being an apprentice, being on your placement, and do the placement in the trust where you work. It's harder because a lot of time you are used like a spare hand of a healthcare assistant.
Yeah.
And the trust know that this is happening, but it's very hard to challenge a band 7 or a band 8 to say no, I will do it, but you must give me something in return. And that is something we need to be challenged with the trust regarding the apprentice students. Thank you.
Lydia?
So I was going to say, because obviously doing cardiac physiology, we're quite like a niche little bubble, but there are instances where we work with other professions. So I would say being able to work with different professions, like the multidisciplinary team. So like in the cath lab, we do that there. But yeah, no, getting to know like nurses and midwives and all of that would be really useful to see like kind of a different perspective on like a patient's care pathway. So yeah.
That'd be brilliant. Thank you. I've got that on the list. Rachel?
Mine is very similar to what Natasha was saying in terms of not really knowing. I know all the things I want to do, but I don't know how to do it. like particularly like articulating how I can use my voice to make changes. Like I know I can do leadership stuff because I've done it in the past, but it's how you can make change through that. Yeah, so learning how to do that. Also like feeling a bit of Stockholm syndrome of that I, you know, shouldn't be on this because I don't have the skills to do it, or, you know, all those lies that come in. So just, yeah, to be able to have confidence. And for a personal thing, my university doesn't do elective placements, and I would like to try and change that. I don't know if it's a bit of a big task, but yeah. And also, I don't know if it's been mentioned before, mental health support for students. I know for myself, like what Kelly was saying, it's been quite overwhelming on some placements and not feeling like you know who to talk to. And I think there are a lot of people that maybe wouldn't speak up, who need somewhere that they can just go and know that they've got someone they can talk to. So yeah, that's something I'm passionate about.
Brilliant. What a list. I'll just go to Carolina and Cecile, and then we'll do group agreement quickly. I'm very aware that I need to get through quite a lot of content with you as well. So Carolina.
So basically it's really remarkable that common themes are coming up. Well, for me, I consciously withdrawn myself from the social media 2 years ago. So I still like to be able to express myself professionally, and perhaps with 2 social media that I'm happy to return to, I would like to know how to do it appropriately, and to become a bit more active, like become like to share, also to share the knowledge that I have already and to learn more. And what Ellie said, I do hear her when she said about setting boundaries. It's sometimes really difficult in difficult conversation when you represent someone and you have this very strong wall, and then you feel like you are pushed back and you can't set your boundaries and stand your ground. So that's one thing. And then someone said about people tell you that you have leadership skills and you don't see that in yourself because you sort of, it's your nature. And I would really like to figure out what does it mean for me, because I had this feedback a few times as well. Thank you.
No problem at all. I'm trying so hard not to jump in with what I'm going to talk about in a minute. Cecile.
Yeah, hi. I think for me, I think I'm confident that I'm a leader, and hearing everybody here, everybody is as well. So I think it's, as a general goal, I think it's going to be great to see how everybody grows in self-confidence over the next few months. But I also feel it's about the student voice in placement and in a bigger context, because we're often seen as new starters, and it's not often assumed that we have other life experiences that can really be beneficial to patient care and placement areas. And I just want to have that, yeah, that ability to show it on placement, like on a wider scale, effectively. Just to kind of summarize quickly.
Thank you. That's brilliant. That's quite a list. I'll try and condense and theme that for you, so that we can send that over to RADA. They've got their work cut out. That's good. I like to give them a challenge. So group agreement then. So this agreement will go to, as I say, it will go over to RADA. They will sign up to this. So we want this to be a safe space where you can share and challenge and support each other throughout the process, and throughout the 3 days and beyond with us, really. One of the main things about Florence programs is the network and the group that you work with. You grow very close, and it becomes quite a secure kind of place to share over the period of programs, and that can be over a space of only 2 or 3 days together. So we really want to kind of support and harness that with you. So if you could just give me a few shout outs in terms of what you would like in your group agreement. What would you like to kind of sign up to?
I this has come up a lot. I don't know if it's because we're mental health students, but one of our lecturers is CBT trained, and he's very much informed from that in his teaching, and he had us do something similar, and we all kind of agreed that we wanted unconditional positive regard, which is this very big, you know, popular CBT person-centered approach, where you kind of give everyone the benefit of the doubt, and even if you don't agree with them, even if you've got some kind of discomfort about what you're saying, you have that kind of collective agreement that, okay, I still respect you as a person, I still hold positive regard towards you, I'm separating kind of my feelings towards you from anything you've said or done that I might not agree with.
Okay. Anything else? Kelly?
For there to be at least a week's notice before there is a group gathering.
Yep, no problem.
And for there to be patience if a student is asking for adaptations.
Yep. No problem.
I was just going to say sort of confidentiality and non-judgmental. So in order for it to be a safe space, we need to be confident that what we share about ourselves is not then discussed outside the group, and then that makes it a more honest discussion. I think if we can be 100% honest and about ourselves and receive the sort of feedback about ourselves, and then not talked about outside the safe space of the room, then it makes it better.
Brilliant, no problem at all. Nicoletta?
Sorry, it's just regarding the group. When you split us in group, I saw that there will be 3 groups, 6, 7, and 8. I have a problem because in 6 is my first day of placement and it's already set up.
We'll have a chat. I'll have a chat with you at the end of the session, okay? No problem.
Thank you very much. I will be grateful. Thank you.
No worries. Iona?
Just kind of seconding what Rachel said about feedback, and like the only way we can really grow is if we get that feedback, but being kind about how we give it to each other as well, and also positive feedback. I think we don't often give that enough, so that would be fantastic as well.
That's brilliant. Anything else? This isn't if you think of something during the rest of the session, just pop it in the chat or email it over, and we can kind of add that on, so it's not a start-stop exercise.
I thought of something. If you can't attend a meeting, to email the person who organises it at least 2 days before.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right, that's on there. Anything else for now? Okay, what I'll do is, as I say, these are here, so just pop it in the chat if you need anything, and we can collect that and add it on. And as I say, we'll share all the slides with you at the end of the session. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now, and we're going to get on with the MBTI content of the day. So hopefully that will share nicely. There we go. What I'm going to do to start with is give you a brief introduction to MBTI, and then if you've got a pen and paper handy, the first activity will involve a piece of pen and paper, so fair warning. So understanding the MBTI, I realise some of you will have done an MBTI questionnaire before. Bear with me for this section if you know all about it. For those that haven't, in summary, the MBTI Myers-Briggs Type Indicator Test is a computer-based kind of personality screening that works on looking at preferences within our personalities. From a kind of benefits perspective, it identifies your strengths, and it also gives you the opportunity to find blind spots. It's a very positive tool. It's not a tool that puts you in a box, and you have full control over what your MBTI's best fit type is. So as I said earlier, if you disagree with how the results have come out of the questionnaire, we can kind of investigate that a little bit further. That said, you may get a surprise, and from personal experience, I did get a surprise, and it took me a couple of days while I was doing my practitioner training to kind of thrash it out. with my facilitator to find out that actually I was where I was, and at the end I agreed. I do agree with it 100% now, but so don't be open-minded at the same time. It's great in terms of looking at team behaviour. So from a leadership perspective, if you are in a line management position, were to be in a line management position, the MBTI can help you with that. And it also works within your team as peers as well. Once you understand the principles behind MBTI, you can't unsee it. And when you're working with people, as you do with any other kind of bit of knowledge you gain, you can apply that to individuals that you're working with to help in terms of, you know, completing tasks, communication styles, interpretation of yourself. And it also allows you to put that mirror up and do a bit of how would I deal with me in this situation, which is never, I don't think is ever a bad thing. From a line manager perspective, it can help you to allocate the right tasks to the right team members, improved communication and problem solving, and it looks at identifying other people's strengths and how we can work together and how we can communicate with each other to try and, you know, enhance the experience for everybody involved. So the indicator tool was based on the personality theories of the Swiss psychologist Carl Jung. Okay, and the model itself was derived by Catherine Cooks-Briggs and Isabel Myers. And so they are two non-psychologists, but what they wanted to do was take Carl Jung's theory of preference pairs and make it accessible to the wider population. So from the work that Carl did, they developed the questionnaire tool and then distributed it and did that work worldwide. It is one of the few models of personality that describes differences positively. This is a very positive, very empowering tool, and it's very useful. And once you understand the theory, as I said, it's applicable both at work, at home, throughout really, and it really helps you. The other bonus with this type of tool is there's no kind of best or worst, that it doesn't put you in a box. And you've got options to develop and enhance blind spots at any point. You are not one thing or the other with the MBTI best fit type, and that's really important. So heavily evidence-based. 20 years of research went into the MBTI questionnaire before it was even published, okay? And if you go onto Google and type MBTI, there are thousands of papers out there, articles, critical editorials, you name it, you will drown in a wealth of data and evidence out there which supports the tool's reliability and credibility. So this is a tool that's very well used, and it's going to be continually used. The other great thing about this tool is that it's culturally sensitive. So the Myers-Briggs team not only have researched their questionnaire and their tool very extensively, but they also, as they extend the reach of the tool into other languages and other cultures, they do a lot of research again before they publish. So if you are taking the Myers-Briggs tool in another country, then or in another language, you can be assured that the context of the questionnaire has been appropriately interpreted for that culture. And they've done that with robust kind of research methods. So you're not just getting a Google Translate of the British version. The way the wording has been written and is presented to you, whatever of the other 15 European languages it comes in, it's evidence-based to be meaningful to that language, so that you're not going to get any transcription errors and misinterpretations, which other personality quizzes not necessarily as evidence-based from that perspective. Also, the authors form from a wide range of backgrounds, and they've written about the indicator. There's loads of resources as well. So at the end of this session, I'll give you the link to the website and you can go and have a look and kind of delve deeper into it. You are coming in at a very kind of early stage of the Myers-Briggs journey. If you wanted to continue that journey onwards in the rest of your career, there are many more layers to Myers-Briggs that can be added to the best fit type that you will get today. So this is at the very beginning of a journey if you wanted to, you know, if that was something that you wanted to continue longer term throughout your career. So let's talk about preferences. What I want you to do is, if you've got a pen and piece of paper there, can you just sign your name in your dominant hand, please? Okay, now can you sign your name in your non-dominant hand? Oh, I have to stop sharing at this point because that is I like to see people's faces. I appreciate not everybody might be able to do this, so please bear with me for this. This is the only bit of practical that you'll be asked to do for the session. Okay, so for those of you who had your pens handy, how did it feel writing your name in your dominant hand?
Didn't really have to think about it.
No thinking, brilliant. What did it look like? Easy. Fantastic. Anything else remarkable about writing your name in the hand you've done so since you were able to write? Very natural. Okay, let's get down to the serious business. What was it like in the other hand? The faces were quite interesting.
Mine looks a state.
Looks a state, yeah. How did it feel?
Barely legible. Really had to like consciously do it.
Yep, okay. I've got hard work, full of effort on the chat, absolutely. Okay, this is a really good example of preferences. So what I'm going to do is, in hypothetically speaking, for those of you who've just done the exercise, I am going to take away your dominant limb. Okay, put your arm in a cast. For the purposes of writing your name, I'm going to say I'm putting your arm in a cast and tying it behind your back for 6 months because you've damaged it and you can't use it. How do you feel? How would that make you feel?
I had my hand broken and right hand, sorry. And it was horrible. I need to learn to eat with the left one. And I remember I was in school and my mom copied all my lessons, all the teaching. So it's not nice.
Not
you
nice.
Feel useless.
Okay, feel useless. Thank you. That's a really good answer, Iona.
I just want to say I find it really interesting because one of the things I've developed is like I won't go into it, but it's basically an app for assisting people with hand disabilities. And when I apply for funding, I always say to them, I challenge you to go throughout the rest of your day without using your dominant hand. So I think it's really interesting hearing the feedback from other people, because hopefully that's why I've been so successful in getting funding, because I've actually gone ahead and done that and seen just how difficult it is. Yeah,
that's brilliant. So we've said that you feel a bit useless. Would you manage? Would you get on with it? Can you use your other hand?
Hard. It's
hard, but you can. You're all nodding. You look reluctant. I've got to be honest. Not looking hugely positive at me at this point. It's going to use more energy. You're going to have to think about it. You're going to have to slow down. It's not going to be as well presented. But over time, 6 months fast forward down the line, and I give you your dominant hand back. How do you feel about using your non-dominant hand when I remove that cast?
Probably feel like second nature.
Potentially. Would you go back to using your dominant hand?
That's hard to know, isn't it?
It
maybe,
is, isn't it?
maybe not.
Maybe, maybe not. And that's a fantastic answer. That's the answer that I was hoping you'd give me. So with the Myers-Briggs tool and the personality preferences, what you've done, those of you who've completed it, is you have taken a quiz and it asks you a load of repetitive questions. And I'm sure there will have been some parts of it where you'd been like, I feel like I've answered this 6 times before. And it's looking at where you're naturally led to. So we all have in our preference pairs, so Carl Jung has got these 4 preference pairs that I'm going to go through in a minute. You've all got a natural affinity to one side or the other. Okay, and this is the same with our writing with our left and right hand, or whatever side of the body you like to use. I think, yes, we can use both sides, but naturally we have a tendency to one side or the other. We can use both sides, but when we're using that non-dominant side, it's harder and we have to engage more with it. It's more conscious, it's less predictable, it's less natural, it's less free flowing. So when we're talking about Myers-Briggs and our preference pairs, that's what we're talking about. You will have the ability to use both preference pairs in your everyday life all the time. However, one side of those preference pairs, you will have more affinity towards, and you will naturally kind of lean towards that side. The other side you can use, and you do use all the time, but you have to think about it. And this is all centered around communication and behaviors. Okay, so it takes more energy for you to move to that non-preferred preference pair. Does that make sense? So this is not about one or the other. This is about actually what's your more dominant preference. And if you've got something that isn't, in one of your preference pairs isn't as dominant as the other, what can we do to develop that so that you have a more rounded kind of toolkit going forward? Okay. So just going to share my screen back again. Okay. I'm with that. So I'll skip over those bits. So typical responses to the preferred hand are it's natural flowing, you don't need to think about it, it's quick and effortless. Everything that you guys have just said to me feels awkward, it's horrible, it requires concentration, but you could do it with practice. Okay. Please remember this when we're looking at the preference pairs, really important, okay? You are not one or the other, and this is all about exploring those preference pairs. So on the screen now, you can see the 4 preference pairs that Carl Jung devised. Okay, so we've got extroversion and introversion, sensing, intuition, thinking and feeling, and judging and perceiving. Now, the definitions of these words are not necessarily that which we would use out in society. So extroversion and introversion does not mean whether you like people or not. It doesn't mean that you enjoy going out or staying in. It's around where we get our energy from the world. Okay, so it's what energizes us, what gives us that kind of that empowerment and energy. How do we get the best out of ourselves? What's our processes? Okay, sensing and intuition, you'll notice intuition is signified by an N, not an I, because we can't have 2 I's, that would confuse everybody. So we've got sensing and intuition, and that's about what kind of information we prefer to use in the world. So once we've got our energy and our processes, what information do we prefer? Where do we like to get our data? Thinking and feeling doesn't mean you don't think, and it doesn't mean you don't feel. It's about how we make decisions. So what is our primary kind of preference in terms of decision making? And judging and perceiving, again, this is not about being judgmental or perceptive. It's about how we deal with the world around us. So once we've got our energy and a way that we'd like to think about things, how do we actively use that information, make the decision and make the action happen? So how do we make the change? Okay. So we're going to start with introversion and extroversion. So looking at those energies. So these slides are a generic set and they're all based upon Carl Jung's theories and the MBTI work, okay? So extroversion is orange and introversion is blue. If you look at the characteristics according to the Myers-Briggs indicator tool, it suggests that extroverts tend to be more act first, reflect later, prefer to get into the action, so are likely to be more first at the table in terms of getting involved in discussion and activity, like to talk things through, so very kind of external with their thought processes. More expressive when interacting, and they gain energy from interaction, have a breadth of ideas. From the introversion side, you can see the arrows are going internally, not externally, like the sunshine next door. So thinking first before speaking or acting, spending time on reflection, thinking things through, more contained when interacting, and gaining energy from concentration and individualized activities, may have more of a depth of interest than a breadth. So less interest, but we'll know them more detail. Let's take this into a scenario. So you are in a classroom or a meeting, and the person chairing that meeting is asking for ideas for a project or a change initiative. There will be members of the group that will be first to raise their hands and start sharing their ideas immediately. The more they share their ideas and the more interaction they gain from other participants in the room, you will see an active increase in their energies and their enthusiasm, and almost the more interaction they get, the more ideas they flow. Controversially, you'll also see within that classroom or that meeting room, you will see a member of the team who sits quietly. May not look like they're paying full attention. So might ask a question and they may just be looking down or kind of looking a bit disengaged. Not necessarily the case. It's the fact that they are watching and processing the room, so watching the discussions that are happening, processing the rooms, and thinking about the detail around those decisions and those discussions, and trying to decide where their stance on that is. When they participate within the meeting, they will do so minimally, but they will have quite an in-depth kind of message to send. They won't necessarily become animated within that setting. At the end of that meeting or classroom event, everybody leaves the room. The extroverts within the room will still be chatting. They'll be like, right, come on, I've got really good ideas, let's go, I need to write this down. You know, the jobs list will be flowing and they'll be excited to crack on. Introverts within that environment will have lost some of their energy because they will have been participating in discussion, sharing ideas, and doing a lot of head work in the background as well. So they may find that actually they need to go away from that meeting, review their notes, have a cup of tea quietly by themselves, possibly put the earphones in, have a think and a reflect, and then come back to the chair with some information, maybe by email or maybe by follow-up call. Say, I've gone away, I've thought about what was said in the meeting, I said X, Y, and Z, I want to build on that with this. So you may need a bit more time. And in terms of presentations, so when presenting or delivering or sharing energy with a group, you'll find that our introverts, so a full day of teaching, for example, for a more introverted preference will be quite draining. To be quite tired at the end of that day. Whereas if you are presenting and you are more extrovertly on the extrovert kind of preference, you may find that that kind of energizes you and spurs you on for the next event. Does that make sense? They do this in picture form as well. So extroverts like to solar powered, go outside, gain energy from the world around them and build energy off each other. There is an element of social interaction with this. Whereas our introverts have to go and plug in the wall and sit quietly for a few minutes and think it over before they make that first step towards that change activity. So in order to explore this preference, I am going to give you a challenge. And at this point, I'm going to call Lynn and Orion back into the room so that they can arrange your breakouts. I would like you to plan your perfect party in 7 minutes. We are going to randomly assign you to 2 breakout rooms. You're going to have 7 minutes in order to plan your party. There are no rules. You have no budget. There are no restrictions. Okay. What I want you to do is plan a party that the whole group will agree with, and then come back and share what you're going to do for that event. What I want you to do when you're in the room is I want you to think about how you're feeling around the discussions that are going on. How are you feeling? Look at the energies within that breakout space. Look at how the different team members are interacting, okay? And again, this is quite a selfish exercise. So at the end of this, I'm going to ask you where you think you sit in terms of that introvert-extrovert preference pair continuum, okay? So have a look at the interaction, have a look at the decisions that are made, have a look at have a think about how you feel in making those decisions and having those interactions. Okay, we deliberately don't give you much time so that you've got a little bit of time pressure, because a party with no limits could take a while. And seriously, go for it. I've had some absolute corkers, so the game is on. So we'll have 2 breakout rooms, please, and it will be 7 minutes activity. So hopefully bear with us and you'll all disappear into a breakout room. Obviously, Orion, Lynn and myself will remain out of the rooms. I'm just going to pause the recording while you go into your breakout rooms. Press record.
This meeting is being recorded.
Fantastic. Excellent. Thank you for coming back. Right. Can I have someone from group 1 give me a very brief summary of their party? So
I can't remember which group we were in.
Who was in room 1? Hang on, we might be able to tell you.
You are 2.
Aurora was in room 1 and Ben. And room 2 was Cecile and Eleanor. So that should help you all out.
Carolina, do you want me to talk? You planned, I'll execute. How's that?
Yes, will be nice.
So it's quite elaborate. I hope that budget promise was real.
Yeah, it's real. It's real.
It's not going to be a cheap night. We settled very early on a Roaring Twenties, Great Gatsby theme.
Nice.
So we need a suitable, elaborate venue. So some kind of, Gatsby-worthy manor house. Full theme. Carolina has extensive decoration ambitions and she's going to do it all herself. We don't need to hire anyone, so you're going to save a little bit of money there. She will be orchestrating the food as well. She's going to put grazing boards together because that is something that she's recently discovered she's very good at. We decided as well very, very soon that we needed kind of almost satellite parties around the main party, because we are largely a group of introverts in room 1. So we said, because it's Gatsby, we have kind of like libraries and little nooks and little quiet rooms that we can fill with quieter activities and people can actually have a conversation or not, as the case may be. And then I think we just got overexcited, and then we added a zoo and a bouncy castle. I think Rachel was really just turning up the heat on the kind of rave vibes, and just throwing whatever we could.
I was the only extrovert of the group.
Fair play. It sounds good.
So yeah, that's us.
Excellent. And it sounds like you've got a little bit for everybody in there, which is brilliant. Did everyone speak? Did everyone get to speak? Fabulous. Okay. Group 2 then?
So we started with llamas because Iona really likes llamas, and we kind of broached around it. So it's a llama party with we're having an outdoor theme with loads of different little areas. Food is central for us, but then we started by saying that food would be provided, and then that different people could bring different personality through their food. Same, like no dress code. And then we kind of went before party, after party, gift bags with loads of expensive things in them because it was free. Water sports for
oh, I like that.
Water sports because we're on a beach. If everybody wants to chip with what we decided.
That sounds awesome.
We're on the Caribbean with luxury yachts and a giant soft play area, and yeah, it's gonna be very bougie as well.
Nice. I like it. That sounds really good. So did you have the opportunity, now you've had the opportunity to have a high pressure discussion and have a think about where you are on your piece of paper, can you, or document on your screen, however you want to do that, can you please write down whether you think you are an E or an I? If you're not sure, you don't, then just pop a question mark and we'll leave it and review it later. Okay. So, and while you're doing that, I shall share my screen and we shall delve into the world of S&N. So, Hopefully my screen will, oh, I'm sharing on the wrong screen. Stop sharing, that's not helpful, is it? Let's try again. There we go. There we go. Now we're in the right place. Okay, so sensing and intuition is the next set of preference pairs. This one I think is really applicable to us as healthcare professionals, whatever your speciality. I think this one is harder necessarily sometimes to kind of differentiate with because we use both quite a lot. I was talking about it in the break. So this is all about what kind of information we prefer to use within the world. So this is about our data analysis. We've got our energy source, and now we're going to delve into information. So you can see on the screen in front of you, you've got the green camera, which represents sensing, and the yellow camera, which represents intuition. So you can see the green camera is focused in and zoomed right in on the flower, which is there. So you can see all the detail. So detail and data. So our sensors like to know the facts and they look at the specifics. They're looking at what's happening right in front of you right now. They have a very realistic approach to how they do things, and they focus on the here and now, and they want to ensure that things work in practice. And they observe and they remember. So these people are the people within our teams and our worlds who, when you come out with an idea and you think, right, this is the vision, I want to do this, they will say, hang on a minute, what about? How are we going to pay for it? What resources do we need? You know, we tried this back in 10 years ago and it didn't go so well because of X, Y, and Z. Not negative. They are looking at the barriers to achieving the goal. So they're looking at what's in the foreground. In order to reach that destination, what are we going to have to do to get there? How much time are we going to need to commit? What's the resource for it? Very practical how-to kind of approach to looking at a problem and solving it. If we flick to the yellow side and the intuition, you'll see that the vision is panned out. So the view is panned out and you've got a whole landscape there. That detail in the foreground is not prominent. Actually, what we're looking at is the beautiful hills in the background. And intuition is all about seeking out new ideas and looking for that bigger picture. It's more imaginative and it's more visionary. So this is what I want to achieve, and this is the goal. Things will work in theory. How we get there is not yet defined. So if you are an N, the practical how-to element of it is something that you will go back and review later. So you think it'll be, this is what I want to achieve, and that how to go back to it. Actually, you might need to converse with someone who's more sensing to get some kind of firm information on that, or you'll go away and think about it and bring it later. So it's an evolving story. The other thing about the intuition side of our preference pairs is it's great for like tying things up. So if you've got a lot of different projects on the go, your intuitive side is what can tie that all together into more of a conceptual framework and pull different projects in together to make a portfolio. If we're going to go outside of work, because that's also, you know, an element of our personality, I bring to you the IKEA furniture conundrum. Any of you done flat pack furniture before? Hopefully some of you will have done. Are you the person who unpacks the box, gets the instructions out and lays out all your equipment in the right way? Do you check you've got your screws in place and you've got everything you need before you start? Or are you that person that knows what a chair looks like? You're a capable human being, you're able to do it. I'm going to build that chair. And if I get to the end and there's a few bits missing, as long as it looks like a chair, we're all good. But I'm not necessarily going to follow the instructions, and I'm definitely not going to check the kit before I start. I'm just going to crack on and jump in there and see what happens. Have a little think about that. There's a few, on the little tiny bit of screen I can see there are a few smiles. So hopefully that will started to warm you up a little bit. Has someone raised a hand? I've just had a notification.
Yes, sorry, it was me. I just thought it was really interesting because in a theoretical sense, I'm definitely an N, but when it comes to actual functional, I'm more like an S. So I think it's quite interesting how you can be a different thing depending on the scenario.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
You're all all I'm going to say is you're all healthcare professionals and you've all got experience. Some of you have got experience from previous roles, and that will influence where you sit within your preference pairs. And when you get your feedback report back, the feedback may be indicative of that. So it's not an all or, like I said, it's not all or nothing. So that's not a bad thing, and it's definitely not a bad observation to have made. So next task, Lynn, can you get your stopwatch out, please? Lovely, Lynn. So what I'm going to get you to do now is I want you to look at an image, and I want you to make a note either mentally or physically or on the screen at what you see within the picture. Okay, Lynn, are you ready to time me 1 minute?
Stop.
Okay. So just going to take a couple of shout outs then. What did you see?
I saw lots of kind of emotions like defiance, sadness, determination, fear, anger, as well as the kind of a woman sitting on the stairs. Quite a grey picture, but I was kind of more drawn to like the emotions of what I was seeing in the painting.
Excellent, brilliant. Anybody see anything different?
Even though I clocked the emotions, I was kind of thinking more about, I was kind of looking at the composition of it, like, is she a mirror image? Why is she warped? You know, like I was kind of looking more at the bones of it, I guess.
Yep, brilliant. Thank you very much. Again, another answer that I was hoping for.
It's like a mirror images. It's like
It is
you
like a
see
mirror image,
yourself.
It really made me think of how I'm often really annoyed with my past self, and it almost looks like she's looking back at like herself in the past and thinking that she's weak or something. So that's what kind of resonated with me.
Interesting, thank you.
Got a lovely one in the chat from Kelly. Someone seeing their own soul, and a woman on the stair full of emotions, angry by facial experience, maybe reflecting on herself, but body language more sad or depressed, from Carolina.
Interesting, thank you very much. Rachel, I think you got your hand up.
Yeah, I said I thought it was like she was having an out-of-body experience and seeing herself through her own eyes, and she doesn't appear to like what she sees.
Excellent, thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, me.
From Josephine.
Sorry, I saw the image itself, but I also focused on what you could potentially be asking us, like the number of steps and how many things there were on the banister. Yeah.
Did you notice the banister's not attached to the wall?
No, I didn't see that. I just counted the amount of pulls on the banister, and I kind of focused on what you could be asking after looking at the picture, as well as looking at the emotional side of it.
Like on
colors.
right?
Yeah, like colors and, you know, what she was wearing, more like analyzing the details of the picture rather than, yeah.
That's absolutely brilliant. So we've had some N answers and we've had some S answers there, which is fantastic. So what I'm going to do now is Lynn's going to reset her clock watch, and I'm going to ask you to look at a different image for another minute. What I'd like you to do now is, if you think you were looking at it from an N perspective, I want you to look at it from the opposite way. So if you went details this time, I want you to think about it from a more bigger picture, emotional way. If you thought more emotionally and bigger picture this time, I want you to switch and look for the detail. Does that make sense? Okay, Lynn, when you're ready.
1 minute again?
Yes, please.
Okay, on your mark, get set, go. Stop.
Okay. How did that feel? Looking at it from the different approach. Yes, I know.
Yeah, it's interesting because I used to be a professional photographer, so instantly, even though I was more emotive on the first one, I instantly went to like analysing it and seeing how it looked like a composite image, like it didn't look like they were both shot, the subject in the background at the same time. And so that was quite interesting how my brain just switched the other way.
That's great. Thank you, Natasha.
Yeah, similar. I tried really hard to delve into the emotion of this one, but it felt like the image of the gentleman had been superimposed onto the background, and I couldn't get past that. I felt quite cynical almost, trying to look for emotion in a picture where I didn't naturally see it. It felt really like going against the grain for me.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Rachel?
Interestingly, mine was kind of the opposite. Like I instantly was like, oh, and then was like, no, don't look at that. Count how many things there are and stuff. So yeah.
You're all doing the right things. Thank you very much. Nicoletta?
Like sadness, regrets is like he's upset because like he lost something or hard life.
Yep, thank you very much. Carolina?
I was really trying to focus on details and I found it difficult. I immediately like was feeling emotions and putting in the place. So sort of the same way as Rachel.
Yep, thank you. Okay, you know what I'm going to ask you to do now. I'd like you to note down whether you think you are an I or an N. Next on our trip through MBTI land is we're going to look at thinking and feeling. So once we've gained our energy and we have looked at the information before us, then we process the energy in order to make decisions. This is how we make those decisions, and it is a little bit black and white in terms of head versus heart. Again, this one for healthcare professionals, we have to use both of these all the time. So my guess is that you will be well developed in both of these preferences. Some of you may find it quite hard to choose. Others of you will find it easier. So you can see the blue brain and the red heart. Again, this is not a black and white exercise, but in theory and working with Carl Jung, we apply logical reasoning when we're thinking. We use cause and effect analysis and we seek an objective truth. So look at the data. What's the decision on that? Decide using impersonal criteria, and we focus on the tasks and provide a critique. We are, from day one of our training and in other roles before, you would have been taught to look at the evidence and make a decision and make a plan. This is a fundamental part of what we do. On the other side of the preference pairs, we have our feeling, and that's signified by our red heart. So this is where we look at the team and the people, and we advocate for our people and our collective community and our patients. We apply individual values and we understand other people's points of view. We seek harmony, we don't like conflict. We decide on by personal circumstance, and we focus on the relationship, and we are there front and center offering praise all the time, every step of the way. We want to look at this in a pictorial format to help you. I think this one's quite good as an illustration. You can see that when we are doing that critical analysis and reviewing the evidence and utilizing that thinking preference, we step out of the situation and we look at the information that we've got, and we make a decision based on that information. When we are in the feeling preference, we step into the team. So we think about how the decisions we're going to make are going to impact the people that we are most directly with, whether that be family, friends, patients, peers, or whoever that is. And we make the decision by looking at the individuals within that group and trying to find a solution that kind of works for everybody as far as possible. Okay. I'm going to need my breakout rooms again, Lynn, please. So in order to do this, I'm going to give you another task. Okay. What I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to split you into two groups, and I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do this. Okay, so less time. I'm going to split you into groups, and I'm going to say to you, many congratulations. As your head of nursing, I'm going to send you and your team on an all expenses paid trip to the Caribbean to present at a conference. Okay, very exciting. Off you go. Sort out your poster presentation. Orion today is forming the other side of my team and is the finance manager, and he's going to come up to me 2 weeks before you're due to go and say that we can't afford to send the whole team to the Caribbean to present. What you need to do in the next 5 minutes is to sit down as a team and decide who is going to get the funding and how are you going to distribute that funding to get your team to the conference. Okay, so you get 5 minutes to have that, to make that decision. While you're doing it, think about how you're looking at the information, think about how you feel about the decision you're making. Where do your preferences lie? Just as a caveat to this as well, before Lynn sends you off for 5 minutes, this is a generic presentation, but I've actually done this in real life. So it's a tricky one. So I'm not expecting answers at the end of it, but it's about thinking around that thinking and feeling preference. But try and make a decision if you can. Try and come up with some creative solutions. Okay, when you're ready, Lynn. Welcome back. Thank you. Okay, so really difficult question, really difficult task. We do this task with everybody who does the MBTI level 1 work. So from students like yourselves all the way up to our aspiring directors. Okay, so people that are actually making these decisions. And there's not one group that doesn't look like you looked at me when we set out the question. So just for a kind of parity sake, it doesn't matter whether you're an 8D or a 9 or entering into your kind of student journey. This question is the same for everybody. So group 1, and just a Cliff Note summary. Did you get a decision? Did you get any bright ideas? How did it feel?
Aurora, do you want to share what you were saying, or do you want me to say?
I think really, although there was some kind of slightly different stances, it really just came down to what's for the good of the project, what's for the good of the team, and actually if there's someone who's best suited to go and kind of deliver our aspect and to go and kind of drive forward what we all collectively want, then that's probably who we'd prioritize. I think it would be fair to say there wasn't really anyone who was kind of cutthroat. I'm going even if I'm not the best person for it.
Okay, that's good. When you were making your decisions, did you get a hint of any thinkers and feelers within the group? Was there a bit of a mixed bag, or were you all fairly much on the same page immediately?
I think a lot of it was thinkers, but I think there were probably 1 or 2 people who were like, I'd be more inclined to just step back. And I don't know whether that comes from a feeling for other people and not wanting to kind of step on any toes. So
yeah,
it was mixed.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Group 2.
We're doing the holding back again.
Yeah. I think we had we were sort of in the middle of thinking and feeling, because there were practical elements that we spoke about, like the financial aspect. Could we just use technology to live stream the event and then no one has to go to the Caribbean, which is a massive shame in my opinion. But then there was the other side, so there was sort of that aspect, but then there was the feeling side, which was more like, well, the best person, I don't know, just the best person who should put themselves forwards, but then maybe have an interview sort of panel, or they should pitch how they want to broach the subject, and then get other people's opinions on what they want to speak up about. That's kind of our approach in group 2.
That's good. Thank you very much. Horrible scenario. There's no real right or wrong answer with this one, and it sounds like you've started the process as well. So you've looked at the practicalities of it, you've thought about the people that are going to be in the room at the time. It's going to cause conflict and it's going to be difficult communication, and you'll be pleased to know that even when we give this one to our aspiring directors, they struggle to come out with a solution that is makes everybody happy. So it is a tough one. Hopefully, though, it has made you think about how you want to look at decision making and how you want to do that. So I'm going to ask you, please indicate whether you are a T or an F. And I'm going to take you through J and P. This one's quite quick and it's an individual kind of task. So no breakout rooms for this one. So judging and perceiving is kind of how we action, how we structure, how we deal with the world around us. And we've got purple and green or yellow. It comes up different colour on my screen every time, so interpret your colours appropriately. So you can see here the journey and the destination at the end, and J&P is all about how we get to that final destination. If you look on the J side, which is the blue or purple side, you can see that our J's like to come to closure and we like to make plans. We act in a controlled way and we prefer to act within structure and schedule activities. If we look at our perceptive side and our P, you can see the road to the destination is not direct. There are options available and we like choices. We remain flexible and respond to emerging information. We prefer to go with the flow and prefer to be spontaneous. From a healthcare professional perspective, again, you will use both of these preferences every day. Yes, we like a care plan. Yes, we like structure and we like to help our patient get to the way the journey is. But let's be honest, we are thrown 1,000 curveballs a day and that plan will have to change and adapt and move according to what's happening with that patient at that time and other external factors that we don't have a lot of control over. When we're thinking about this in terms of ourselves, how do you feel when you get that curveball? How do you feel when you're working with someone who likes to have a plan? I used to work with a nurse called Emma. She's from general medicine. They thought it'd be fun to put an intensive care nurse and a general medicine nurse together to run leadership for the trust. We'd never worked with each other before. We're very good friends now, actually, but we are definitely on different sides of the FP continuum. And I'm more of a J and like a plan, and she is definitely more of a P and is quite laid back and enjoys a curveball. How do you feel when you're working with people who are one or the other? How comfortable do you feel with getting a curveball when you've got a project and you're trying to take it to fruition? How do you feel about deadlines? Just a few things to have in your head for the next task. If we're thinking about this from a home perspective, think about your big shop. Do you have a list? Do you go down the aisles the same way every time? Do you shop online so you avoid all that temptation and trauma within the aisles? Or are you more of a let's see what's in the fridge and we'll just go with the flow kind of person? Again, who you are, your preference at home and your preference at work may be quite different. So try and be selfish with the decision and take away all the external factors so that you can make a decision that reflects you best. If you've had to make hard decisions all day and be quite kind of driven all day, you may get home some days and be like, no, I don't really care what I have to. But have a think about where your preference naturally sits. In order to help you do that, this is the last activity before lunch. I'm going to give you 2 weeks to complete a task. And at the bottom of the screen, you can see a timeline. So you've got immediately 1 week before, on the deadline, or late. Where would you prefer to complete that task? How do you feel about a deadline? How in control do you want to be with your work outputs? Do you enjoy the last minute thrill of the 24-hour rush, or does that fill you with dread and you want to get it done a good week before and have somebody read it 3 or 4 times before you put that assignment in? Where do you sit? Have a think about that. If you're last minute enjoy a curveball, then you might like to select yourself as more of a P. If you are more structured and would like a bit more time and a bit more control, you are likely to fall within the J preference. So have a little think about that and then pop down on your piece of paper whether you think you are a J or a P. Okay, so hopefully you'll all have 4 letters on your piece of paper. Okay. That is at the moment your best fit type, where you think you need to be with your best fit type. Okay, there are 16 combinations of 4 letters that you can have. There's 16 different best fit types. Okay, some of you will be the same, some of you will be different. What I'm going to do now is it is about 10 to 1. So I am going to give you till 20 past 1 to have some lunch, and Lynn is going to release your MBTI feedback sheets if you haven't had them already. Okay. What we're going to do then when you come back is I'm going to just take you through some next steps and explain a little bit around the scoring and answer any questions. The bit after this is mostly around you asking me questions about your best fit types and any queries you've got about the report itself. And then I will confirm information regarding your next workshop as well. So the 4 letters that I got you to write down on the piece of paper form your best fit type that you perceive you to be from the activities this morning. What you'll have received in your communication report has come through is answers to the questionnaire that you filled out previously. If you look onto, as you go into the report, there's a chart with a bar graph on it. And from there, you'll be allocated a best fit type. There will be a letter for each preference that you've been aligned to and a score for that. So there'll be a number with it, and it looks on a bar chart. And that gives you the detail around your best fit type and your preferences, and can help you highlight some of your strengths and some of your blind spots in terms of your best fit type. Before we start, was anybody surprised by their best fit type? Everyone was fairly aligned. You don't have to give me details if you don't want to. Yes.
Sorry, just ask a really quick question. You know, on that bar chart,
yeah.
So some of mine are like, well, one of mine is 1, and then one is like 35. Yeah. So it's where I was like struggling to choose between and thinking, well, I'm not sure if would that correlate with like the ones that were the lower score and ones where, so that's how I'm reading it is kind of the ones I'm not sure.
I'm going to go through that now.
Oh, thank you.
So the numbers, what's happened when you were completing that questionnaire, what I want you to do when you're thinking about your best fit type is think about where you were when you completed that questionnaire. In an ideal world, we would sit in complete isolation and complete that questionnaire, and you would do it 100% selfishly. So you would leave behind all your work, family responsibilities, and everything else everyone that you have to answer to, and you would answer purely for yourself. But the results that you get because the results that you get can be influenced by external factors, environmental factors around you. Some of that is born, and some of that is kind of how we've developed, and some of that is how we've progressed within our careers thus far. So what the tool does is it looks at the consistency within which you answer those repetitive questions. And from there, it makes the decision as to whether you fall more into one preference than the other. So those of you who have higher scores or higher numbers next to your preference pairs, that shows a level of confidence for the MBTI tool. So the computer that's processed that is confident that you fall within that preference pair. It's not a strong or a weak, it's a yes, you answered consistently with that preference. So I'm aligning you to that preference from a kind of computer way of thinking about it. Those of you who have results that are very slight, so kind of 10 or less, I would say, that is where you will have answered the questions, but basically the system is not sure. So you will have answered questions consistent with both preference pairs. And this is what I said around our role in clinical practice as healthcare professionals. We have to use all of these 4 preference pairs all the time, and you are continuously moving from one preference pair to another within your role, depending on whether you're advocating for a patient, you're reviewing results, you're making a plan, you're dealing with an emergency situation where you have absolutely no control, whether you're speaking, you're having a conversation with a member of the MDT team, or whether you're working by yourself, you're continuously using all kind of 4 of those preference pairs all the time. And so as we progress through our careers and have multiple careers now, we learn about the other preference pair and develop that other preference pair. So those of you that have got very slight scores between your preference pairs, basically what that means is the computer couldn't choose. So if you've got a 5 or below, the computer couldn't decide. You were fairly even on both of your both preference pairs with your responses. So this means that it wasn't sure. So it's given you a choice because it has to choose, because it is a computer program at the end of the day. it's chosen, but basically it means that you're well developed and you can utilize both of those preference pairs very well. So if we take that back to the handwriting analogy, you're ambidextrous. You can write well with your left and your right hand, if you need to and if you choose to. And that's a really positive thing, because it means you've got a wider, it's less challenging for you to move between the two preference pairs. You will do it more seamlessly when you need to. It won't take up as much energy and it won't feel as kind of deliberate and clunky as what you would do with some of the preference pairs that you don't use as frequently. Does that make sense? Okay, so a narrow score is not a bad thing at all. It just indicates that you've answered with both preferences in mind. Now, that may be because of where you took the test and when you took the test, or it will be that there is an element of you're just very well developed. If we look at this from a kind of generational development perspective, if you think about when we are born, and little children particularly, they're very fixed in their ideas, aren't they? And they're very fixed in their opinions and what they like and what they don't like. I've got a 5-year-old. If I do something she doesn't like, she's very clear and communicates that very clearly with me. She knows black and white what she likes, what she doesn't like. But as we get older and we experience more and we step into professional roles and we work with new people and we develop into more senior roles, we realise that actually what we like and what we don't like isn't necessarily going to be productive for us from a career standpoint. So the more experience we gain, the more we learn. We have to kind of work on our less preferred options. So if you are more introverted and don't like to speak, but you step into a senior role, then the chances are you're going to have to speak up in meetings more and you're going to have to present and you're going to have to kind of step into that more extroverted space. So you do it more often. The first time we do it, it's uncomfortable, and it becomes more comfortable the more we do it, and we still end up very exhausted at the end of it, because naturally that's not a space that we want to be in. However, we get better at it, same as writing with our right and left hand. So as you gain more experience in your career, you take on different career roles, you learn to develop those alternate preference pairs more and more. So the chances are, if you took a MBTI questionnaire every 10 years, you would see a slight change in your scoring over that time. And your scores would, in theory, become more aligned with the midline. Whereas if you did it at a very early point in your career, you may be more confident. There may be a more confident divide between your two preference pairs, and that's just due to experience and learning that we have to kind of develop our behaviours and our communication styles in order to kind of progress and help others and to help ourselves in terms of our kind of career progression. And with confidence, you kind of step out of your comfort zone more as well. So in terms of taking this forward then, what can we do with this now you know? How can you use this within your student-shared decision-making journey?
Maybe by being more aware and looking at the different perspectives.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a look next time you're with your councils, next time you're working with your teams in clinical practice, when you're working with your mentors, you know, when you're at university, have a look at the people around you. Think about how you are, where your preferences sit, and what you do best, how you feel most comfortable and how you shine. Think about the areas that you're not as confident in, things that may frustrate you and kind of not be in that development area, in that blind spot area of your preference pairs, and have a think about how you come across to others, and also vice versa. If you're out in clinical practice and you're meeting a challenge, particularly some of you have spoken about feedback today and challenging conversations and having those pushback conversations, think about actually, what's this person like? Have a think about that in terms of MBTI. What do I need to do to help this person to help me? So that we can kind of achieve the common goal. There are those of you who fall within the sensing preference pair. You like information and you like reality and you like data as a natural preference. Big ideas and big thinking is not necessarily where you are at your most comfortable. So when you're working with somebody and you've got a project to do, actually seeking out someone who's more visionary and big ideas to complement your attention to detail and realistic, practical approach to a project will be really beneficial. If you are working with a group of people and you need to delegate work out or share out tasks, think about which task will support their personalities as well as yours. We all know what it's like when we're given a job that we do not like. It makes it really difficult and clunky and hard, and we don't really want to do it, and it's harder to engage. So it's about playing to your strengths to a certain degree. It's also about looking at the blind spots that the report highlights and thinking, how can I use this opportunity to develop those? So that might be in terms of communication and speaking out and presentation. It might be in terms of how you can look at your communication style to deliver more effective feedback. You'll need to read the report a few times before you read it the first time, and it seems quite straightforward. I would recommend you read it a good 3 times and really kind of reflect on some of the comments that are there. You'll see the breakdown of this is how you are, this is how you appear, these are areas that you can develop with. So really kind of look at those individual elements and think about you and who you are and how you want to take those development points forward. Something that you don't have to agree with them, that's absolutely fine, but think about how you can apply it, particularly over these next 3 days. When you're working with RADA, think about, how can I apply this? How can I bring this to RADA so that it will help me with my imposter syndrome, my confidence, my communication, my presence, my influence? Because from what you've told me today, a lot of you have some big changes that you want to bring about, and it's really inspiring. And using a bit of this with what's going to be provided to you in your RADA session is a really powerful tool to help you kind of project that change and influence that change and make it happen. So have a think about that as well. Have a think about where you can utilize this for personal development as well. So have a think about that going forward. Make yourself a little action plan, top 3, 3 things that you want to do. How can you make the best of your strengths? What do you want to see from yourself? Any areas you do want to develop, any areas that are surprised you think, actually, you know what, turns out I am really strong at that, and I want to, share that knowledge, and I want to share that with other people. What do you want to take forward? What do you want to gain from this personally? Again, be really selfish. You don't often get time like this and opportunities like this to kind of really focus on yourself. So be selfish about it. This is your development. This is your time. You're giving up so much of yourself daily in clinical practice. Take the time to use this to focus on you and your journey, because you've got so much to offer and potentially long careers ahead. So use this to your advantage, definitely. Think about MBTI a little bit when communicating with others, making decisions. Sometimes you might need to just pause for a minute and think, actually, how am I approaching this decision? Have I got my T on, or am I in the F zone? Let's think about how I'm gonna tackle this. And stress is a really big one, and can't underestimate this enough with the current clinical climate as well. Stress management and MBTI is quite a helpful tool for that. What we find is, and the evidence backs this up, is that when we are under pressure, our least developed preferences come forward. So the opposite will occur. So, for example, introverts may become quite communicative and loud, which is out of character. You've got someone who's very bubbly and always chatty and friendly and, sharing all the time, and they come in very quiet. There's something to look for there. Are they okay? think about how you respond under pressure. For me, this was quite telling, and this was what helped me decide with my best fit, because I was a bit conflicted for a few days with it. And actually my stress response, when I think about how I come across when I'm stressed, actually that falls nicely in line with my personality type. So it's a bit opposites, the opposite comes out, and we project our least developed preference pair as part of that. So have a think about how you respond to stress, and then when you're working with your colleagues in your networks, have a think about that and read the room. And that skill is something that's vastly underestimated. Read the room, learn about your people, think about the people you're working with, and use MBTI as a little quiet tool to help you with that, because it will assist you in your responsibilities as the chair. I'm going to share on the slide deck, I will share with you the myers-briggs.com website. Please have a look at it when you get the slide deck come through. There are so many resources out there. A small Google of your best fit site will keep you entertained all evening. Do have a glass of wine with it if that's your choice. Some of it's quite interesting. It's always worth going onto Google and having a look at celebrities with your Myers-Briggs type indicator. That's always quite a fun activity to do as well. See who the other people are, because there's so much information out there, just for a bit of fun as well, but there's loads of information available and loads of data available as well. Rachel, you've got your hands up.
Just a quick question, really.
Yeah.
Where you're talking about obviously where we sit on each section, and there's the bits that are least developed preferences.
Yes.
Do you mean that as in that's something that we can work towards strengthening, or would that then change our personality type completely?
No. You are evolving. We are all evolving. So there will be a change. There will be a change in terms of the extremity of our preferences over time, but no, that won't drastically change who you are. The fundamentals of the MBTI are there from day one, but absolutely developing that preference, the other preferences, is never a bad thing, and really you want to be on the midline.
Okay.
Because then you can move in different situations, and it adds tools to your toolkit. So if you are facing a situation where you're looking at someone and they might be very stressed, and you may need to change, you may need to adapt your communication to that. So the easier that you can do that and move between the preference pairs, the more options you have available to you, particularly as you kind of grow and develop within your career and you're taking on more responsibility all the time. You guys have got quite a lot of responsibility anyway, but once you're in qualified practice and you're taking on line manager roles and responsibilities, you've got to have those challenging conversations. Sometimes it's about sitting down quietly before you have these communications and delivering that feedback and saying, actually, how's the best I can do this? Because my natural is to, might be to straight, more blunt approach, however, more practical approach. However, the person I'm working with, I know, is definitely more emotional, so I might need to temper that for myself and deliver a different kind of way of delivering that.
Yeah, cool, thank you. And so actually
it's about working it to your advantage,
and it's a strength if you say I could go one way or I can go the other.
You absolutely can, yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Definitely. And you do that you will do it to a certain extent every day. It'll be in the other thing that I found quite interesting since doing this is when I have gone out into clinical practice and I've got to the end of the day and I've done a shift and I've come home and I'm like, I'm exhausted today. Why am I exhausted? What have I done that stretched me? And you can, when you sit down and reflect on it, you can see where you've kind of pushed your boundaries and you've learned a bit and you've tried something new. And it's not necessarily about the care aspects of it, it's about your interaction with others, and that's the bit that sometimes it's mentally draining rather than physically draining, if that makes sense. So it's worth having a think about it that way as well, because for all of those kind of challenges, actually there's a bit of learning that you can apply to this, and it just helps you next time round. Iona.
Yeah, I was just Googling quickly and it was interesting because they were saying about percentages of the different personality types as well. Like, do you know much about that, or how that fits into working in a team and things like that?
Yeah, there are definitely less of, and if you go onto Myers-Briggs, there is a breakdown of it. I haven't got the slide handy right now, but there is information on the Myers-Briggs around the different personality types. ISTJs I know are quite common. The INTJ is rarer. There's a rarer type, so there are less of them in the world, and there's a bit of a male-female split as well. So there are certain personality types that are more prevalent, and that will affect the dynamics of a team. And when you're looking at team working, that's why it's good to have an understanding of how people think and their preferences. So having this little bit of information that you've had today, whilst I'm not advocating that all line managers should go out and MBTI their teams, because it's a confidential process between the facilitator and themselves, and your report is yours, so you don't have to share it with anybody. But having an understanding of how people work best and who they are and what their preferences are, and that might be through having a conversation, means that you can get better outcomes from your team. Having a team of ISTJs is not necessarily going to bring a lot of detail, but it's not going to bring a lot of vision. You need a visionary in there to drive projects forward, and you need an ISTJ, which is more detail and planning, to keep that visionary on track. So it's about the complementary as well. So when you look at the breakdown, when you look at the breakdowns, there will be more of certain personalities, person best fit types within teams. And I know some industries do use it as part of their recruitment. That's not something that Myers-Briggs advocates at all. But I know some organisations have used that as part of their recruitment process, because it can be advantageous to have different personality types within teams. But there is definitely a prevalence of some best fit types over the other, and ISTJ and INTJ are a good kind of opposite to that. Has anybody got any questions about their feedback sheet they want to ask me before I kind of round up? Obviously, if you go away and you read this and you have some questions, it's absolutely fine to come back to me. I'll be seeing you again for the third workshop. So do drop a query if you have got anything specifically MBTI related, and we can kind of follow up with you on that if we need to, and answer some questions. You can go into the analysis of this quite a lot deeper. As I said, this is just a very kind of entry level perspective on it, but in order to do that, it's around kind of one-to-one sessions, and that's difficult to do when there's 15 to 30 of you on the screen. So if you have got any specific queries about your report, then drop the Academy an email, and I can have a look for you and answer any questions that you do have. But hopefully I've given you enough information generically to kind of answer most things, but do kind of raise a query if you need to. Is everyone happy with their best fit type? Are you all okay with it? Okay, I definitely recommend having a read and investigating further. There's so much to learn with it. In terms of just clarifying some of the programme dates, my apologies, I believe there was some conflicting information that has come out from the team, so I apologise for that. I can confirm your programme dates. Let me just share my screen and I'll show you, so you've got the dates on the screen. There it is. Team the options. Can you see that there? So your programme dates, your next one will be RADA, which is Personal Presence and Impact. It's a 9:30 start and it's virtual. You will receive your Zoom link. We received the Zoom link from RADA around 2 weeks before the programme begins. So we should be getting that through any time now. And once we've received those, we will then send out the Zoom link for you for each of the days to your nominated groups. I know the groups have already gone out. As far as possible, we would like you to stay within the groups that you have been allocated, unless obviously there's a personal emergency of some kind, because of the allocation process. However, you've got Jess and Mi's contact details if you need to have a further discussion about that. The session will run all day, so be prepared to be there till 4:30. It may finish a little earlier, but I'm going to say 4:30 just to make sure that you are covered from a time perspective as well. And that will be an all-day session. It will be quite an intense session, and they will require you to potentially move around. So if you can arrange for you to be at home that day, it would be advantageous. They send quite a comprehensive joining instruction pack with them, so there will be some handouts that you'll need to review and read and make sure you've got to hand with you when you do the session. So when that email comes through, please read the instructions carefully, follow it through, and if you can, try and make sure that you are somewhere comfortable and where you're able to kind of fully participate as much as possible. If there are any adjustments needed for this session, drop me an email via the Academy and I'll just let Rhiannon and the team at RADA know so that they know in advance. Your final session with us will be on the 14th of March, which is going to be stepping into your authority and next steps. Jess and I will be running that session, so I'm not going to give too much away. Your Zoom link is already there and it's a 9:30 login for that one. Okay. As I said earlier, we've got the learning management system, which you should be receiving your logins for. It should have gone out already. If you haven't had them already, they'll be sent out today. And that's what Orion prompted you about this morning. On there, basically, you have a online version of this so that you can see your Zoom links, the times, and some more information, a little bit more information about your programme going forward. So we'll pop that on there. The recording for this session will also be populated on there so that colleagues who've missed the session will be able to catch up. And then we can go from there, and you can kind of log into there and see what other resources are available on that site. Just let me see. This is the title of it. So when you go onto the LMS system, I'm a little bit, there you go, you can see I've been in already. So you can see your dates and times there.
Deb's the other screens on the
Pardon?
It's still showing the screenshot. Sorry, the slideshow, not the
Oh, that's a bit bizarre. Let me turn off. Let me try again. Let's try again. Technical difficulties. Let's try again. That's bizarre because I'd had it down for a couple of minutes. Let's share again. Here we go. Here we are. Right. So you can see here on my screen, your login, and the login will be your email address, and there's a very funny password. So please save it when you get it come through to you. Drop down, and there you are. Here. Click continue study. So it'll look like you've been enrolled.
I can't see it. I'm not sure if anyone else can't see it.
No.
Has it gone? It's bizarre.
Yeah, I can't see anything.
Okay, let's try again. I'm going to keep trying. That's really
can put up on mine instead.
It's not working. I don't know why it's not working. Because it's telling me it's not sharing.
Yeah, I'll see if I can share mine.
Can you ever go, Ryan? Ryan's our LMS expert. So I'm going to defect the technical genius in the room.
Don't say that, because now I can't see an option to actually share my screen. Fantastic. I will put the direct link into the chat for everyone.
Yes, the direct link into the chat. Basically, you need to find the red box that says student SDM on it, and then you click on there and it will come through. All the information and any changes will be updated on there. We'll also send you an email but please check your junk box, because if there's any
what I-
MailChimp issues, then it'll come straight through.
What I'll
Rachel,
do after this call, I will send everyone an email which will say reset your password. If you're already in the LMS, fine, you can ignore the email I'm going to send you and nothing will happen. If you haven't been able to get into the LMS, click the instructions to reset your password, and that should allow you to get into the LMS with a new password. If that still doesn't work, just email back to Academy and we'll look into it from there.
thank you. Rachel, you've got your hand up.
Yes, sorry, me again.
That's all
Just a quick question. Is there anything we need to do in preparation for the next session? Like, is there?
So, well, there will be, they will ask you to print out and read some handouts when they come, but I don't have access to those until they send them to me. So we ask for them to have joining instructions, ideally 2 weeks before. And they're coming in fairly consistent to that. We do have a lot of RANA sessions on at the moment. So as soon as they come through, we'll send them out. There will be a handout, and it will give you all the instructions you need to do. It's not a vast quantity of work. It's mostly just read the passage and print out and make sure that you're in comfortable clothes and an area where you can be relaxed. RADA is all about comfort and being able to kind of fully participate. So, there you go. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.
Do you want me to just tell me what you want me to do?
Go up to the top, press leadership, click leadership. Up. Go down, 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 down. There you go. Enroll. So you would enroll. And then it'll log in to enroll. Oh, you need to log in. So you log in. Jess is already there. Fantastic. Save that password. It's weird. You might need to authenticate.
Is it not, or is it 6? It's still 6.
Sometimes
First test, can you pass the maths test?
So this error
why.
just means that you've logged out and in again too quickly, and the server's trying to protect itself in case you're something malicious. So if you do get that error, that's absolutely fine. It means your password is working right, and you've just got to try again in 10 minutes.
Oh,
it's a shame.
Well, at least we know where to go, right?
You know where to go. And basically there'll be a video about Florence Nightingale. Scroll down, and then it's one tab per session. Oh, there you go.
Can you see my screen?
We're all
now?
in it all the time. We just
Sorry
wait
about
because we're in there.
So if you can see my screen.
Yes, go for it.
Yes, so this is the main page. So if you need to find it, it's just in leadership. This is the main page. You'll get a little video you can watch about Florence. If you haven't already done the pre-impact questionnaire or the contact preferences update form, they're there. You need to do those at the beginning of the course. Your schedule is here. If you need any of the dates or the links, and there's just, if you need a bit more information about any of the actual parts of the program, then they're on these bits on the side. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Between us,
we'll get there. We'll get there. We're in it all the time. Nicoletta, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just saw that because I tried to log in and I had that message, and I log out and try again a few times, but I still can't, I'm not able to log into the program.
Yeah, it just means you need to take 10 minutes, because when you log out and in again too quickly, then the server thinks that it's like a bot trying to hack into the system. So you just have to show you're a human and you're patient, and you wait 10 minutes. It should resolve itself. If it doesn't resolve itself like in an hour, then let me know, because something's going wrong.
Thank you very much. I will try later on. Thank you.
No worries.
I've just had a question come into the chat in terms of the questionnaire for employment. Does that mean, oh, it's just flashed away. I was mid read. Does this mean personal or new role, or a new role as you don't full-time student? No, it's not around employment. This is about you, and you will bring yourself to all of the roles that you will embody. So you will have answered the questions quite rightly, selfishly to yourself, for yourself, and you will kind of bring that bring that into whichever roles you're in. As you do go into full-time employment and you experience new roles and new career challenges, all those experiences will impact on your communication skills, your confidence, your ability to stand up and, you know, be more extrovert or introvert, your ability to kind of ride the waves of uncertainty where your kind of roadmaps are concerned and deal with those curveballs. So it will influence your outcomes in terms of your MBTI, but your MBTI and your personality preferences inertly are about you. So they can be developed, but they won't change drastically, if that makes sense. Does that help? Hopefully, fingers crossed. Yes, Lynn, you've got your hand up. Are you okay?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I was just looking up famous people with different personality types, and it said Florence Nightingale has an introverted, intuitive thinking, judging type.
INTJ.
Yeah. Interesting.
Very interesting. Thank you. So yeah, have some fun with it as well. Have some fun with it. It's all about learning, and take it with you and use it as a tool to support you, not as something to hold you back. As Ryan said, we will add on the back of the slides the contact update preferences form and the pre-impact questionnaire. Please complete those because they do help us from an impact research perspective, and we will use your email addresses. So if you change your email address, we do need to contact you. So it helps with us getting communication out to the right place at the right time. So please make sure that is up to date as well. Any questions, please come to the Academy inbox, or obviously you've got Frontline to Jess, so that works equally as effectively as well. Again, you can also use social media as needed, but anything specifically related to these next 3 days with us, please come to the Academy inbox, and please can you make sure that you pop your course name into the subject heading, that, and ideally your cohort, not so much of a problem for you guys because the other 2 cohorts have finished, but just to give you an overview, we've got about 25 programs live at the moment, and some of them are on multiple cohorts. So when we get a query that just says leadership program, we need to come back to you a few times to ascertain which program you're on. So the more information you can give us on that initial email, the quicker we'll be able to respond to your queries. So just put SSDM or student shared decision making in the subject heading, and then we can direct you to the right place. It'll be Lynn that will be primarily responding to you because she's your nominated coordinator for the programme, and we'll be able to answer your questions a lot quicker. We do have a 48-hour, so 2 working day turnaround on our emails as well. So if you don't come through, if you don't get anything immediately, bear with us. We are kind of standard operation procedures are we've got 2 working days or 48 hours, whichever's quicker, to come through with a response. So if you are struggling, please kind of bear with us, and obviously you've got social media as well, so you know you can always get Jess on the WhatsApp, and we'll try and filter, but there's quite a lot of traffic coming through at the moment, and there's a lot going back to say what program you're on. So I'm starting now with the first welcome day of the year. Please put it in the subject heading, it does help. Thank you very much.